Marvel. The arrival of the young hacker, the attack on Wanda and Gwen. Chapter 81. Searcher didn't react at all. The voice might not have even reached his ears. Still roaring, Searcher swung his sword down. Ah. Odin. Without deviation, the giant sword struck precisely where Jomo was. With the Flash Star ability, Fireman made a 90-degree turn, easily dodging it. A red light rushed over, and Wanda, who had followed Searcher, appeared before Jomo, worry overflowing from her eyes. There were only two people high in the sky, but Wanda knew she shouldn't say Jomo's name. What should we do? Jomo looked at Searcher, his expression resolute. Do you believe in light? Huh. On the roof of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Stephen's forehead veins bulged as he watched. Indeed, just as he had guessed, this level of battle was not something Jomo could participate in. Even a missed sword strike forced Jomo to dodge. If a sword unfortunately hit, Jomo would probably be split in two on the spot. Searcher's strength is at least sub-father level. Only Sorcerer Ancient One can resolve this. Recalling the scene in his memory where Sorcerer Ancient One's battle twisted and deformed the surrounding environment, Stephen felt that for safety's sake, he should drive Jomo away. Seriously leaving a sorcerer, please wait, Stephen flew towards Jomo. At the same time, facing Searcher, Fireman opened his hand, activating his fire absorption ability. Immediately, a large amount of fire from Searcher surged towards Fireman's palm. This was like a water pump operating at full power to drain the ocean. It drew a lot of water, but it couldn't affect the ocean. However, Jomo's goal was still achieved, as Searcher noticed the change in his body and looked at him. Hey! Stephen's voice came from behind. He flew to Jomo's side, gazing at Searcher alongside him. Feeling the oppressive force, Stephen's body instinctively tensed his muscles and nerves to the maximum. What a powerful oppressive feeling. He quickly held out both hands, magic circles appearing on his palms. Stephen, extremely nervous, spoke, having already seen Searcher turning towards them. You should leave here. No. I want to fight. Jomo righteously refused. After a moment of stunned, Stephen's lips curled up, and warmth flowed through his heart. I didn't expect you to be so kind. Seeing Searcher complete his turn and stare directly at him, Stephen, realizing that he would inevitably confront Searcher now, prepared for battle. Stephen's voice became serious again. Do you have a plan? Proceed as planned. Taking a deep breath, Stephen subconsciously nodded. Okay. After speaking, Stephen's expression changed slightly as he thought of something, quickly turning his head to glance at Jomo before hastily looking away. Proceed as planned. Stunned for a moment, Stephen's heart instantly panicked. What was the plan again? Facing the giant sword Searcher was bringing down, Stephen's face turned pale. He suddenly realized. Jomo never told him what the plan was. And at this moment, Jomo had already flown away with Wanda. The falling greatsword tore through the air, and the sonic boom, like a howling gale, drowned out the sound of the magic shield shattering. Stephen's magic shield, of course, couldn't block this sword. After being hit, he closed his eyes and kicked his calves, falling straight towards the ground. Seeing this scene in the projection, Odin said gravely, if nothing unexpected happens, he is already a corpse. This level of opponent is not something he can touch, to touch it is death. Thor watched with a pounding heart, his perplexed gaze falling on Odin's profile, not understanding why his father king didn't intervene if that was the case. Odin was also thinking the same question. Why could the Earth's guardian still remain calm? On the plane, Stark looked at Stephen's falling body. For a moment, he actually agreed with the nuclear bomb plan. The ground below was already a fiery purgatory, and in the empty sky above, Searcher's conspicuous head indicated the source of the crisis. Even Jomo, whom Stark considered the strongest, had fled, and Stark couldn't even think of a solution. The next second, Friday zoomed in on a corner of the screen, where Stephen's body glowed green, unsure if it was healing injuries or resurrecting. In any case, after the light disappeared, just before he hit the ground, Stephen was fully revived and suspended in midair. Suspicion emerged in Odin's eyes. Earth's guardian, I have sensed your aura, why do you not act? Immediately after, Odin saw the possible answer. A clear red dot was flying towards Searcher. After transferring Wanda away, leaving a You stay here, I'll go buy you some oranges. Jomo switched to Super Giant and returned. Steven returned to Ancient One's side, looking at Ancient One's face, and found that her previous worry was completely gone, replaced by a trace of calmness. Steven became even more confused. The sorcerer had already saved him, so why didn't she defeat Searcher? As if sensing his confusion, Ancient One said indifferently, he will defeat Searcher. Steven's heart tightened, and he frowned in surprise. Did the sorcerer use the gem's power to see Jomo defeat Searcher? Turning to look at the magic projection, he couldn't imagine how such a thing could defeat Searcher. Stark was also asking inwardly, can the super giant win? One is about 40 meters, the other is hundreds to nearly 1,000 meters, their sheer size isn't even on the same level. Super giant, as an existence capable of pinning Vilgax to the ground, its combat power is in the first tier below the three phantasmal gods. Facing Searcher, an opponent who had just revived and whose strength was between sub-father level and father class, the chances of winning could only be described as very slim. However, with the blessing of dual abilities, it might not be the case. Super Giant extended its hand, and the Fireman ability was used again, frantically drawing fire from Searcher. Searcher continued to swing his sword, causing destruction, feeling good. This time, even more fire was drawn, and he quickly noticed, turning his head to look at this little guy. Ah! Having identified the target, Searcher roared and swung his sword again. Only when the giant sword was about to touch him did Jomo control Super Giant to move sideways and dodge, so fast that Searcher was momentarily dazed for 2 seconds. Throughout the process, Super Giant's action of drawing fire into its palm did not stop. This time, he didn't use the Flash Star ability, but relied purely on Super Giant itself. After Ben got a new watch, his Super Giant's fast movement ability disappeared. However, Jomo's original clumsy watch still had the bug that allowed Super Giant to move quickly. When it was unlocked, this bug was also unlocked. After moving, Super Giant came to Searcher's side. At this point, the fire energy had been absorbed to its limit, and Super Giant raised its hand, a condensed fireball appearing in its hand. Fireman switched to Evil Explosive Frog. Super Giant put the fireball into its mouth and spat it into the sky. Then, it switched back to Fireman and repeated the process. This behavior completely baffled both Steven and Stark. Stark didn't understand, what was Jomo trying to do? Was he trying to drain all the fire from the fire giant? Steven understood even less. The sorcerer believed Jomo could defeat Searcher. But where was there any sign of being able to defeat Searcher? Odin was still frowning. Searcher could only be dealt with by the Earth's guardian, this little giant showed no chance of winning. He could clearly feel through their auras that their strengths were not on the same level at all. If that's the case, why didn't the Earth's guardian act? Searcher, facing Super Giant's actions, was helpless. He was certain that the opponent couldn't withstand his full power strike. One swing of the sword would split this fooled fly in two, cleave down the middle. But although he was massive, he couldn't react to this winding, rapidly moving Super Giant. Over time, a feeling of being toyed with turned into anger. Ah! Searcher let out a skyward roar, deciding to vent all his anger on Earth. Seeing this, Odin was already prepared for a forced descent. He couldn't wait any longer. At such a moment, if the Earth's guardian didn't act, it would have to be him. Just as he gripped the eternal spear tightly, ready to descend. Odin saw that, without Searcher's intervention, Super Giant suddenly stopped. Immediately after, Super Giant tilted its head back and opened its mouth, swallowing all the fireballs falling from high in the sky. Then, the next scene made Odin's pupils suddenly contract. How is that possible? Super Giant tilted his head back and opened his mouth. The fireballs he had spat out earlier streamed back into his throat in a single line. It looked like an ordinary, even slightly comical move, yet Odin sensed that with every fireball swallowed, Super Giant's power surged. In one breath he devoured all that flame energy, and Super Giant had already reached sub-father level. Right then Odin's pupils shrank and his breathing froze. His mind raced, searching for any relevant memory. In the universe, was there really a way to raise one's strength so fast? A moment's thought gave no answer. Odin felt a chill of strangeness. What exactly was the source of this human mutant's ability? Pushing the question aside for now, Odin refocused, holding his breath as he stared. At this moment Searcher's power had reached Father class. Could a mere sub-Father level win against a true Father class? Odin would have scoffed. Below Father class, all were ants. But now he was unsure. Jomo's abilities were simply too bizarre. Having used evil explosive frog to swallow every scrap of flame energy and feeling his strength skyrocket, Jomo clenched his fists in confidence, bent one arm and raised the other straight up, striking Ultraman's iconic pose. With no BGM he'd supply his own, he had to be the man who enters with theme music. Just like sunlight piercing the dark night, dawn slips across the edge of the sky. Whose voice echoes through the endless wheel of time tilde. Searcher, who'd been ready to vent his fury on the surroundings, whipped his head at the sound, and exploded with rage. The more he looked the more that guy seemed begging for a beating, he had to be smashed. Who are you? Shifting stance, Super Giant stretched both hands forward and solemnly declared, martial art style. D-Jaw. Searcher repeated under his breath, martial art style. D-Jaw. Super Giant proudly nodded. Exactly. I am the 57th generation successor of martial art style, D-Jaw Ultraman. Ignoring the nonsense, Searcher gripped his sword in both hands and brought it down with colossal force. No one cares. Die, annoying insect. Can't take a joke. Fine. Eat my Ultra Ray. Snarling, Super Giant stood his ground, arms crossing in textbook form, right arm vertical, left horizontal, thumbs toward himself. Facing the sweeping giant blade, he fired a cosmic ray from his right arm. To a human-sized target the ray would be like a small building smashing down. But against Searcher it looked no thicker than a thread. One feared the flaming sword's glow might drown it out entirely. At a distance barely visible to the naked eye, colossal blade and thin ray rushed to meet each other. Steven was still anxiously wondering, how had Sorcerer Ancient One seen Super Giant defeat Searcher? Just comparing presence, one was heaven and the other earth. Could Super Giant actually win? He felt as if the giant would end up like himself, cut down by Searcher's sword in one strike. Realizing that didn't sound right, Steven amended it, Super Giant would be sliced clean in two. This blow was delivered with both of Searcher's arms. It was reasonable to suspect he'd used full force. Odin, watching, was still pondering how a sub-Father level could defeat a Father class. Staring at Super Giant, Odin guessed he must have a secret move, otherwise where would his confidence to face Searcher come from? Yet Odin frowned. What exactly was the move? While he pondered, a faint crack sounded from the projection. Crack. Looking sharply, he saw that upon contact the giant blade had been pierced clean through by the ray. His heart sank again. Odin reflexively widened his eyes a fraction more. Under his gaze the ray shot straight for Searcher's head. To keep the whole battlefield in view the projection's perspective was zoomed out, so the ray seemed to travel slowly. But in Searcher's eyes it was so fast his body couldn't react at all. Hurrah! With a low roar Searcher flung away the now half-sword and threw every ounce of strength into raising his hand to block. The instant his vision was completely covered he felt a moment's relief. But before the pain of his pierced palm could register, the glow of the ray already filled his eyes. As Searcher stared in disbelief, the beam drilled through his forehead and then lanced straight toward the vault of the sky. Bang ts. The flames wreathing his body died out. Searcher's form disintegrated like a broken mecha, chunks crashing to the ground. In that instant the world fell silent. So quiet that only the sound of fragments sliding down could be heard at one's ear. Steven stared blankly, unable to process what had just happened. Did we win? Searcher, was he really taken out by Jomo? Huh. Steven stood frozen like a wooden chicken, blinking without moving, convinced he was dreaming. The Searcher he'd assumed only the Sorcerer Ancient One could handle had been one-shot by Jomo's new form. Equally stunned, Odin's reaction was even more extreme. His neck jutted forward on instinct, lips parting in shock. Shouldn't this have been a drawn-out brawl first, then the big finisher? How did he just insta-kill Searcher right off the bat? Odin's pupils quivered uncontrollably. This was the fire giant, Searcher. The prophesied villain of Ragnarok who would raze Asgard to the ground. And he'd been instantly obliterated. Chest heaving, Odin sucked in several ragged breaths, his gaze fixed on Super Giant. He could tell Supergiant had stockpiled energy for that ray by absorbing and devouring Searcher's flames, an odd ability indeed. But a beam that could pierce the giant's colossal sword, hand, and brow in one go couldn't be explained by energy alone. Because Searcher was a bona fide father-class powerhouse. An entire tier above the temporarily empowered Supergiant. In raw energy, Supergiant was no match for Searcher. Only the ray itself, something unique, could account for it. Collecting himself, Odin straightened, readjusting his stance, a flicker of dread flashed across his eyes that he couldn't quite hide. If so, given enough energy to absorb, could that ray one-shot any other father-class being as well? The idea took root and wouldn't leave. Odin swallowed silently while Searcher's shattered body crashed like meteors into New York, toppling skyscrapers amid a chain of thunderous blasts. Stark pinched the bridge of his nose and exhaled a weary breath. Compared with letting the fire giant keep rampaging, this was the lesser of two evils. The city coffers are going to weep over the rebuild costs. With that sigh, Stark found himself thinking about Supergiant's ray. If only I had an attack like that. The moment the soft words left his lips, Friday delivered the latest update. Sir, asteroid 797 just outside Earth was struck by the ray and completely destroyed. She helpfully pulled up the satellite feed as she spoke. Stark's heart skipped, his brain buzzed like a swarm of bees. After punching through Searcher's sword, hand, and brow, that same ray had flown clear off Earth and obliterated an asteroid. What the hell? How is that even possible? Odin sensed the news and the corner of his mouth twitched. Asgard itself sits on an asteroid about that size. In the prophecy, Asgard is destroyed blow by blow from Searcher's sword. Searcher couldn't shatter an asteroid in one slash, yet your ray can. Fine, you're tougher than Searcher. Odin decided he needed to visit Earth and meet Jomo in person. The man's feats kept exceeding all expectations, better to speak with someone who actually knew him. With Searcher's fall, a loot screen seemed to pop, the horns at each side of his skull shrank into a crown, and the lingering flames condensed back into the eternal flame. Eyeing the two items floating in midair, Supergiant scratched his head. Would the pair even fetch $3 million? After transferring the nanotech rights to Stark, Jomo had landed a fat check. But corporate red tape, plus Stark not yet finishing development, meant Jomo still hadn't seen a cent. He remained flat broke. Which was why, during the Civil War just now, Stark had still been wearing the previous gen armor. Seeing Crown and Flame starting to drop, Supergiant hurriedly flew over. Sellable or not, grab them first. Just as he reached out for Crown and Eternal Flame. Both items suddenly lifted into the air. Looking up, he saw a sturdy old man hovering above. Recognition dawned. Odin. A moment's thought, then Jomo snapped. Eat my Ultra Ray. Reacting quickly, Odin tilts his head to dodge, and the whine of the ray's pull reaches his ears, making Odin's complexion shift slightly. Are you kidding me, attacking me right off the bat? From this, he judges it's Odin, not Loki. The Supergiant scratches his head. Aren't you Loki? Odin smiles and extends his hand. Loki. With that, he grabs through the air, and Loki materializes in his hand, looking like a little chick being lifted by Odin. Odin glances once, chuckles lightly. Are you talking about him? Loki's face turns pale, he lowers his head, giving up resistance, and dares not meet Odin's gaze. Is tilde. Jomo inhales sharply, nervously covering the protrusion on his head. He doesn't want to clash with the great Odin right now. But my head feels pointy up there. Odin also notices the Supergiant's move and feels moved. It seems the bump on his head is his weak point. He switches form to Fireman and flies toward Odin. Seeing Odin easily find the Supergiant's weakness, he smiles at the incoming Jomo, ready to chat. Glancing at the Crown and Eternal Flame wrapped in magic beside him, Jomo ignores Odin's smile, reaches out, and starts rummaging on Odin. Fireman's palm pats Odin's muscular flesh. Odin's white robe remains unaffected by the fire. Odin's smile fades quickly, and he looks down. What are you doing here? Circling Odin, Fireman mutters, Searcher cost me 3 million knives, you owe me. Odin thinks he should blast Fireman away. If you don't pay, I'll just go ask Thor, after all you're all family. Hearing that, Odin gives up. Asgard now needs stability. But that's no small matter. As a divine king, he can't let Fire Man keep poking him. He opens his mouth to speak, and Fire Man pulls a gold coin from his belt. Hey. One heavenly palace coin, does it equal a searcher? Odin is speechless. You really want to use searcher as a unit of measurement. Seeing the coin about to melt, Fire Man swallows it whole, letting evil explosive frog preserve it. So you just want money. Understanding this, Odin slams the eternal spear. The coins on the heavenly palace warriors fly into a magical projection, clattering into a stream that pours toward Fire Man. Loki, the little chick, feels a strange pang. Those coins melted into gold would sell for more than $3 million. Fire Man takes it all. He won't spend it in Asgard, so he'll melt the gold and sell it, easier than laundering. Odin sighs. Looks like we can say it's proper. His voice cuts off, and Fire Man resumes groping him. Odin raises an eyebrow. Haven't I already paid you? While groping, Jomo looks displeased. That money was originally mine. I'm looking for my loot now. By the way, Jomo looks at the eternal spear. If I sell this thing, is it worth a searcher? Taking a deep breath, Odin closes his eyes. Even a money-obsessed person should have limits, right? Searcher may be a villain capable of sinking Asgard, but how did he become a synonym for $3 million Earth dollars in your mouth? Is that really okay? And the eternal spear. $3 million Earth dollars. How did you link them together? Under Odin's inherent magical field, this scene won't be seen by humans. In the magical projection, Stephen and the heavenly palace warriors are stunned. The great king of gods is constantly being bombarded with gold coins by this human Jomo. Isn't he afraid Odin will slap him away? Jomo says, I'm justified, what am I scared of? Besides, if you really push a buddy to the edge, just self-destruct in Asgard. Odin takes a deep breath. I'm curious about the source of your ability. I can feel it, but I can't discern it. Odin frowns, looking at the clumsy watch emblem on Fire Man's chest. Realizing Odin won't give him the eternal spear, Jomo gives up, hands behind his back. Light. After speaking, he quietly pulls at Odin's white robe, finds it can't be tugged or burned, leans in and whispers, this thing. Odin sharply cuts him off, worthless. Jomo tilts his head disdainfully, tch. If it's worthless, why are you shouting? Unnoticed, Odin's breathing becomes rapid. He seems to suddenly understand why Searcher would rather give up further destruction and slice this guy down with a sword. The source is light. Ha! Who would believe such a lame excuse? Sensing human emotion heading this way, Odin's magic looks and sees Wanda's anxious figure. A smile lifts his lips. With love comes something to protect, and he likely won't wreak havoc on Earth. He withdraws his gaze, preparing to return. This time, trust me, I'll seal Loki myself. Seeing Fire Man covering Loki's mouth with one hand while feeling for valuables with the other, Odin's voice cuts off again. Loki, struggling, flails like a fish. It's not about the money. His mouth is burning and smoking. Ouch. Odin takes a deep breath and slams the spear, teleporting the two away, his back looking a bit disheveled. Holding a heap of valuable treasures, Jomo waves reluctantly, you're welcome to come play again. Satisfied, he swallows all the treasures, feels the Ancient One's aura, turns his head, and even from a distance he seems to see the Ancient One's enigmatic smile. Thinking of the Time Stone, Jomo shivers. In front of her, he might be immobilized and dealt with, or the Ancient One could just run away. To be safe, wait until more alien heroes are unlocked, those who can absorb energy, before considering unlocking the Clock King. Fire Man departs, then returns to Wanda's side in human form. Jomo lunges into Wanda's arms, sobbing, Wah, I thought you were dead. Wanda opens her arms, stunned. Isn't that the word I wanted to say? Jomo rubs his head back and forth, expressing grievance, while Wanda helplessly pats his shoulder to comfort him. Wah, 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 ho ho ho, really big and soft. On a nearby rooftop, Spider-Man Gwen watches and smirks inwardly. Dog man. Wanda thinks of something, supports Jomo's shoulders and pushes him aside, seriously saying, by the way, Mr. Stark said we can stay at Avengers Tower temporarily. Sniffing out inertia, Jomo calmly declines. Oh, I'll pass. I'll go find Gwen later and stay at her place. Turning to leave, Gwen stumbles, almost falling, then looks terrified. Again, you want to stay at my house. Jomo turns, his righteous gaze seems to say, yeah, stay at your place, what of it? On Gwen's suit surface, a strand of black liquid flashes, seemingly excited about Jomo's arrival. The conspicuous Spider-Man naturally couldn't escape Fireman's sight as he descended. After Natasha picked up Wanda, Jomo hailed a cab and left with Gwen. In the back seat, Gwen kept her arms folded in thought. The black pentagram on Wanda's wrist refused to fade from her mind. Glancing again at Jomo's wrist, Gwen felt a question mark pop up inside her. Strange, why did the tattoo on his body end up on Wanda's hand? Recalling the recent string of supernatural incidents, Gwen fidgeted, certain she smelled danger. It felt like a curse that had now jumped to Wanda. While Gwen stared at Jomo's wrist lost in these thoughts, Jomo's head was filled with only those gold coins. Soon the cab arrived. Before the driver could speak, Jomo had already stepped out. The driver turned his gaze to Gwen. $37.50. Gwen sighed in exhaustion and reluctantly paid up. Captain George wasn't off duty yet, so Jomo brazenly entered the living room, then, feeling unsafe, headed upstairs into Gwen's bedroom. Gwen walked in just in time to see Jomo, transformed into evil explosive frog, spitting out the coins one by one. Arms crossed, leaning against the door, Gwen was suddenly struck by a wicked idea. Lock this frog in a cage and make it spit gold every day. If it refuses, punch it. Just imagining it made Gwen feel wonderfully vindicated. Gwen teased, if you could vomit this much gold daily, there'd be no poor people left in the world. Just finished spitting coins, evil explosive frog shot her a look reserved for idiots. Spit this much every day and gold becomes worthless, are you stupid? Gwen glared, grinding her teeth in frustration. I was obviously joking. Why does this guy always act shameless whenever I'm being serious? Yet when I crack a joke, he answers with utter seriousness. For an instant Gwen felt the urge to perish together with him. At that moment Jomo switched to Diamond God of War and crafted a long concave box. His other hand grabbed a fistful of coins. Using fire power, he melted the gold into droplets that dripped into the box. Watching the molten gold fall, Jomo could already picture the finished bars. Gwen couldn't care less, her eyes fixed on the wall clock. Seconds ticked by. Gradually Gwen grew nervous, lowering her folded arms. Jomo, hurry, before my father gets back, you have to return to the underground room. Same reason. If Dad finds a strange man in the house, she'll be grounded for sure. Then New York nights would be without Spider-Man. One box filled, he simply created another. Diamond God of War powers made it effortless. Glancing at the table lined with little boxes, Jomo saw stars. Her warning went in one ear and out the other. Money. All of this is money. The melting was done, now they only needed to cool. Canceling his form, Jomo hugged his shoulders in anticipation. Seeing time creep toward 5 o'clock, Gwen strode over. No good. Saying so, she picked up one diamond box. Like a mother hen guarding her chicks, Jomo grabbed her hand in alarm. Gwen, what are you doing? Eyeing the clock, Gwen's tension spilled over. Putting it in the fridge to cool. No, I'll do it myself. Jomo let go, turned, and used ice fireman power to accelerate the bars, solidification. And this one. Gwen set another box on the table. Jomo glanced at it. That one's for you later. Gwen laughed in surprise, this money grubber was actually giving away a gold bar. But the next second the ticking hand twisted her nerves taut again. Almost the instant Jomo removed the cooled bar, Gwen shoved him toward the underground room. Wait, the scraps aren't cleaned up yet. Clutching a small mountain of bars, Jomo was propelled forward, glancing back at the leftover diamond boxes. If George finds those, we're toast. It's fine, I'll tidy up in a minute. Gwen gritted her teeth and pushed harder. All right. Down the stairs he went, stuffing his pockets until they bulged. The clink of gold was the sweetest sound in the world to him. Just as they reached the living room, the door creaked open. Off-duty George and Jomo locked eyes. Dad. Gwen peeked out from behind Jomo. Closing the door, ignoring Gwen, George sized Jomo up, deliberately slowing his steps. You are. Jomo smiled and offered a hand. Hi, I'm Gwen's classmate. Gwen exhaled. Jomo's reflexes weren't bad. They shook hands. George looked them both over, puzzled. Heading out. Where to? Gwen's brain raced for an excuse, but Jomo jumped in. We're grabbing a cab downtown to grab something to eat. Then I'll probably hit the restroom. After that we'll catch a movie. Once it ends we might check out some acrobatics. Heard a guy named Johnny's motorcycle stunt show is decent. Oh, right, seems he got fired for theft. Jomo sighed in pity. Truly regrettable. Gwen. George. All I asked was where you're going. Was the detail about maybe using the bathroom really necessary? George pondered for a few seconds. Strict as his parenting was, he wouldn't block normal socializing. And his daughter was in college. George stared at Jomo, grinding his teeth, out with a male classmate. For dinner and a movie, totally normal. Letting out a resigned breath, George latched onto another point. You're taking a cab. Gwen couldn't get a word in. Jomo's eyes lit up. You know a cabbie. George blinked, then denied. No. Jomo clicked his tongue in disappointment. Then you asked for nothing. I don't know one either. George. The hell. That's your focus. Taking a deep breath, George steered back. If you're cabbing, watch the time. You know how it is. George swept them a stern glance. New York nights are very unsafe. Thinking of the gold lining his clothes, Jomo tensed. Very unsafe. George nodded. Very unsafe. After careful thought Jomo decided. Then I won't cab it, I'll walk. With that, amid the merry clink of bullion, he headed for the door. Gwen. George. George scratched his forehead in bewilderment, seriously wondering if Gwen's classmate might be mentally impaired. Once Jomo was outside, George turned suspiciously to Gwen. What's that clanking on him? Years of detective work told him it was the sound of gold hitting gold. Gwen blurted, his phone. Dad, you know boys his age love showing off to get attention. George considered and conceded the possibility. His daughter was well behaved, studious, living by the book. How would she mingle with street punks? Dad, I'll be back on time. Gwen hurried after him, helpless. Watching them leave, George still wondered, phone clatter or gold clink. So it went. After hiding nearby until the agreed hour, Gwen returned home on schedule. And once night fell and George slept, Gwen crept downstairs to let Jomo back in. Though back in the underground room, Jomo pillowed his head on gold bars, perfectly content. I'm rich, bro. Deep in the villa, after everyone slept. From a hidden compartment in Gwen's closet, black liquid slowly oozed, silently slithering into the underground room toward the sleeping Jomo. A moment later, venom stormed back the way it had come. Who the hell tosses and turns like that in their sleep? Muttering, money, money, the whole time, so what if you're rich? Inside the underground room, Jomo rolled over again and again. Every turn sent gold clinking, the crisp sound echoing sharply in the sealed space. If he stayed any longer he feared the pain would make him cry out and give himself away. Next time, then. The next day. What? Taking the test results on venom from the professor, Gwen gasped. So, professor, you're saying it's a living organism? Yes. The professor stared at the sliver of venom trapped in the inverted glass jar, ceaselessly ramming the walls, and said grimly, if my guess is right, it's a parasitic life form. Once it latches on, you'll never shake it off. As time passes it fuses physically and mentally with the host. In the end it achieves something akin to possession. Gwen, the professor warned, I don't know where you found it, just stay far away from it. Oh okay. Gwen nodded absently, hugged her books and left. During lunch break she slipped into the restroom. When no one was around she tried to peel off the symbiote-soaked suit, only to discover in horror that she couldn't. Gwen's head rang. Did it hear my conversation with the professor? She remembered the key finding in the report. Venom fears loud noise. Without delay she took the afternoon off. Back home she saw Jomo on the sofa counting gold bars. Jomo, if possible, I'd like your help with something. Jomo shielded his loot like a dog with a bone. I already gave you 1 bar. Not that. Gwen was speechless. Did he think everyone was as money mad as he was? She sat down, unsure how to begin. I need to go to a church, an abandoned one, you know, no people there. I need you to make sure nobody shows up. Jomo leaned back tactically. You want me to help fight criminals? Gwen tensed. You could put it that way. Before she could explain, Jomo agreed outright. His eagerness left her wondering if she was dreaming. Was this really the Jomo she knew? Deal. Scooping all the bars toward himself, he swallowed them and said, as Spider-Man's beloved, my purpose is to aid those in need. And, rob the crooks while I'm at it. Gwen was floored. That last part was obviously the real motive. And, wait a minute. Beloved. Leaving the bars in evil explosive frog's care, Jomo and Gwen drove a beat-up Nissan to the church. I'll head up first. With those nervous words, and Jomo's nod, Gwen climbed the stairs, worried sick. Hands in pockets, Jomo scanned the surroundings. He already knew what Gwen was up to. Venom, of course. The Daily Bugle owner's astronaut son had brought it back from space a few days earlier. Right now Gwen must have realized the symbiote wanted to bond with her and was planning to use church bell noise to drive it off. Soon the clang 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 of the bell rang out, intermittent. In a lull Jomo spotted a sleek black luxury van rolling up. They locked eyes. The driver hadn't expected anyone here and eased to a stop. After 2 quiet minutes a burly suit climbed out, walked over and growled, buddy, beat it. Jomo folded his arms, cocked his head at the vehicle, almost gleeful, you guys criminals. The big man pulled out his wallet and handed over $200 bills. Nah, our boss likes to pray here. Take a hike. Pocketing the cash, Jomo grinned. Even I know Americans rarely carry hundreds, yet you've got a stack. Hard to believe you're legit. Knowing too much won't end well. Scram, consider it friendly advice. Just then the bells rang again, accompanied by Venom's shriek and Gwen's low growl. The thug glanced up and smirked. So this is your turf. Where'd you kidnap the chick? Morphing into Wild Demon Vine, Jomo bared his teeth. Take a guess. In an instant the man's heart jumped in fright. The driver slammed into reverse while someone inside speed dialed a phone. You're muscling in. You actually sent a mutant to hit us. A prize catch like this. No way Jomo would let them flee. A dozen vines shot out, flipping the van upside down in midair. One vine locked the goon's arms as Wild Demon Vine stepped up, searched the vehicle, jackpot. Guns inside, 2 suitcases crammed with $100 bills. Wild Demon Vine glared. That's all. Inside, the upside-down boss gawked, held only by his seatbelt. $2 million, too little. That reaction enraged Wild Demon Vine. A whip of vine left a crimson welt across his face. You do illegal deals and only bring this much. The crooks. Was there some rule on how much cash to bring to a crime? Remembering something, Wild Demon Vine leaned an arm on the window and switched tone. Tell me what line of work you're in. Seeing the money gleam in his eye, the boss answered honestly, we traffic illegal chemicals. Monthly profit. Well, depends on business. Good month, $1 million net. Wild Demon Vine did the math. $1 million a month, minus 35% tax, plus social security and health insurance. He perked up, nudged the man. Hey, not bad. Put me in touch. The man felt his brain short circuit. Say the guy's good, he just robbed dirty money and is hot for crime. But say he's bad, planning crime yet still intending to pay taxes and social security. Boss, I said net profit. What crook files a tax return? Furious yet terrified, the man, proud of his French blood, decided to exercise his national right. He threw his hands up in surrender. He wanted to live. These men had seen his face, and they were criminals. Killing them would weigh on no conscience. Thus with a few wet thuds Wild Demon Vine strung them like kebabs. As he carried the 2 money-filled cases toward the church doors, another engine roared, louder and closer. Wild Demon Vine glanced back. The driver's seat was empty. A wall of vines sprang up. The car slammed into it and exploded, black smoke billowing as if packed with bombs. Without looking, Wild Demon Vine fired 2 thorns, skewering 2 pumpkin bombs. 2 more blasts followed. Ha ha ha. Cackling, Green Goblin swooped in on his flyer, a pumpkin bomb in each hand. Seeing the corpses everywhere, he was stunned. So many wiped out so fast. You shouldn't have hurt my clients. With that he lobbed 2 more bombs. After shooting those down, Wild Demon Vine's combat experience bar for gliding King Kong hit 37%. If it had been Electromagnetic Strongman or Thunderbolt, both of whom he'd seen on TV, Green Goblin would never have shown his face. But, a plant person. Powerful, yes, but Green Goblin felt sure he could handle it. Wild Demon Vine glanced back at Green Goblin, looking vexed. Gliding King Kong, use it or not. Whatever. I'm already here. Two vines shot from his back, straight as cobras striking, and snapped toward Green Goblin. Green Goblin jinked his glider aside and lobbed two more pumpkin bombs. The bombs burst against the vines, the tendrils went limp like startled snakes, instantly withered. Retracting the vines, Wild Demon Vine clicked his tongue, he still feared fire. Spotting that weakness, Green Goblin's grin turned nastier. Found your soft spot, so I'll definitely kill you. Two pumpkin bombs in hand, he hid them behind his back. With a conjurer's flick they became 8. With a savage roar Green Goblin hurled them. Die. Wild Demon Vine stood unmoved, several vines whipped out like giant hands, swatting each bomb to detonate it midair. Bang 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 bang. Explosions flickered like fireflies, brief sparks in the sky. The struck vines dulled, once caught they were reeled back in. Green Goblin laughed wildly. You fear flame, and I love playing with fire. Gia Gia Gia. Cackling, he stamped a pedal. A dozen small blade drones locked onto Wild Demon Vine and streaked in. Rotor blades whirred, intent on shredding the plant into pulp. More pumpkin bombs appeared in Green Goblin's hands. His plan was clear, slice the vines with drones, then rain bombs on the helpless plant. Such overwhelming force would surely kill the fooled plant person. Green Goblin brooded, bitter. After his super soldier program failed and the military cancelled its order, he'd resorted to sordid ventures to fund his research. One day, once the military saw his perfected self, they'd beg to re-sign. Yet those shameful dealings hadn't been smashed by Spider-Man, but by this plant freak. Unacceptable. Wild Demon Vine fired explosive seeds from his back, shooting down the drones. Sensing Green Goblin's resentment, Jomo sighed inwardly. Who'd have guessed Osborn would fall so far as to break the law for cash? And Daredevil, by night a vigilante, by day a lawyer scraping for pennies. In a way, these crooks and these heroes were all miserable souls in the same boat. Rooftop of the church. Behind the glass, Gwen cautiously peeked out, watching everything. The explosive seeds had stopped the drones, yet at a glance the fight hardly looked favorable for Wild Demon Vine. The glider kept releasing more drones. Green Goblin's pumpkin bombs seemed endless, and with the craft's speed he zipped everywhere. It looked less a battle than a manhunt with Green Goblin circling his prey. Gwen frowned. She didn't know why Jomo hadn't switched forms, but even if he stuck with Wild Demon Vine he should at least set down the two suitcases and fight properly. Noticing the corpses in the car, Gwen's eyes wavered. Could those cases be crucial evidence Jomo meant to hand to the police? Her eyes lit, then dimmed. No, probably not. Gwen ground her teeth. Knowing him, those cases had to be stuffed with cash. A chill hit her. She glanced at the venom symbiote sealed in its jar and tightened her ragged cloak. The drones circled Wild Demon Vine, buying Green Goblin time. Murderous intent made his gaze icy. In his hands now weren't bombs, incendiaries. He couldn't fathom why the plant man fought half-heartedly, but he wouldn't waste the opening. He only needed the plant distracted by the drones to hurl the fire. Just picturing it writhing and screaming overhead had Green Goblin quivering with excitement. All he needed was that perfect moment when the plant's attention was fixed on the drones. In stark contrast, Wild Demon Vine sighed wearily. Enough already. Green Goblin's face froze. Enough. I'm about to kill you and you tell me, enough. Ignore you and you think you're a main course. Just a side dish. Ignoring the changing Wild Demon Vine, Green Goblin furiously stomped the pedal, every mini drone dub at once. Chew tilde chew tilde chew tilde. Left eyes forward, right eyes backward, gliding King Kong spat sticky globs, his swiveling eyes picked the drones out of the sky one by one. Green Goblin's muscles locked, he froze. The plant man hadn't shrunk or grown, he'd turned into a bug. No time to ponder. He hurled both incendiaries straight at gliding King Kong. Chew tilde chew tilde. Two more globs melted the fire bombs before they could ignite. All bravado drained away. Green Goblin stood stunned, bewildered. The image of those rotating eyes refused to leave his mind. No, seriously. Eyes that spin 360 degrees. And the goo that shot down drones now melted bombs. This freakish bug slime had multiple functions. Unease crept in. Fleeing began to sound appealing. A sudden stench slapped him awake. Now Green Goblin was the disgusted one, waving a hand in front of his nose. Try bathing sometime, you reek. Jomo bristled. I smell fantastic. It's this form that stinks. Green Goblin gagged, hit the throttle, and sped off. Offend me and think you can just leave. Wings flapping, gliding King Kong gave chase. Green Goblin wasn't surprised. Seeing the wings, he'd guessed it could fly. A sinister grin returned. With practiced skill he yanked the glider into a sharp turn. He stamped another pedal. Gun barrels popped from the sides, spraying bullets in a rattling stream. That'll catch you off guard and finish, the thought died as gliding King Kong banked and effortlessly dodged the hail of rounds. Green Goblin blinked, stared at his ride, suddenly wondering if it was a knock-off. Full auto fire, spitting muzzle flash, how did a bug dance through it? He couldn't hold it, Green Goblin vomited. The thing stank too much. Stabilizing the glider, he aimed again, this time igniting the flamethrowers, twin jets of fire roared out. Plants fear flame, so should bugs. The blaze lasted less than a second before two blobs clogged the nozzles, snuffing the fire. Green Goblin's eyes bulged, the slime could even douse flames. Watching, Gwen finally relaxed. Inside the jar, Venom calmed, quietly awaiting Jomo. Chew tilde. With the jets blocked, the glider crashed to the ground. Gliding King Kong swooped toward the fallen Green Goblin. The moment Green Goblin hit the ground he looked up to see gliding King Kong flapping its wings, hovering right in front of him. From start to finish, gliding King Kong kept a tight grip on the two briefcases. All fight drained out of him, Green Goblin's mind raced for a way to escape. Green Goblin asked, "Who are you?" Gliding King Kong spun around, its four insect claws gripping the wall. "As you can see, I'm Spider-Man." Green Goblin felt his intelligence was being insulted. He rose, then dropped to his knees. "I know I was wrong. Give me a chance to change." As he spoke, he glanced past gliding King Kong's shoulder. The instant the words left his mouth, the glider's blades shot out, slicing straight for gliding King Kong's head. Green Goblin couldn't hide his glee. Did it work? But as the glider neared, a tearing sound rang out. Gliding King Kong's tail whipped around, its spike neatly cleaving the craft in two. Two halves clattered to the floor. As if lightning had struck his skull, Green Goblin froze. Flight and slime could be explained by animal traits. But how could a tail slice through steel? What bug can cut metal? Bang! Before he could say more, the tail lashed like a whip, smashing into his head and killing him instantly. Green Goblin collapsed, terror still etched on his face. With the enemy dead, gliding King Kong landed and reverted to human form. "Nice try, but I've seen Spider-Man. You wanted to kill him at the end. I wasn't buying it. HMPH." Briefcases in hand, Jomo headed for the clock tower, well satisfied. A good haul today, nice. On the rooftop, Gwen blinked, her emotions tangled, still processing what she'd seen. From gliding King Kong's arrival to the finish, barely a minute had passed. In mere seconds it had wiped out one of her deadliest foes. Gwen suddenly realized that even Jomo's most unassuming form was terrifyingly powerful in her world. "Little Wen, are you done?" Jomo's voice drifted up the stairwell, the cheesy nickname gave her goosebumps. She could already picture his punchable grin. Hugging the glass jar, Gwen's cheeks flushed. "Don't call me that." Jomo scoffed. "Next time I'll use your real name." Gwen opened her mouth, closed it again, pouted, and stamped her foot. "I know you're right, but can't you be romantic? Why blurt out the truth?" Remembering something, she glanced at him, playful yet aggrieved, and whispered, "Is this how you treat the girl you like?" Jomo noticed the skin her torn clothes revealed. He stared, absently asking, "What girl I like?" "So white." Noticing his gaze, Gwen turned away, face glowing like a tomato in the sunlight, yet she made no move to hide. Nothing indecent was showing. After a moment Jomo lost interest. "Oh right, I did say I was your sweetheart." "Gwen," he gasped in mock horror, "you're not thinking of marrying me, are you?" Gwen glared, outraged, then grabbed a rag, shook off the dust, and draped it over herself. "What gives? You say you like me, then freak out about marriage. Who's the crazy one here?" Rubbing his chin, Jomo muttered, "If we marry, what about Wanda?" Bigamy's illegal in the US. Gwen ground her teeth. Wanda. Wanda, still Wanda. Planning a harem, are you? She vowed that if she ever faced death, she'd drag this jerk down with her. Seeing the carpet-caked Gwen head for the stairs, Jomo followed. That rag's filthy, just toss it. HMPH. Gwen snorted. No more free shows. Walking down the stairs, Gwen suddenly felt the weight in her hand shift and her face changed instantly. Before she could look down, the mass of venom flashed past her eyes. Gwen's blood ran cold. Its target was Jomo. Without thinking of her own safety, Gwen instinctively reached out to grab it. But how could venom, fully prepared, be caught so easily by Gwen? The moment her hand shot out, venom had already plunged into Jomo's body. Seeing this, Gwen's outstretched hand froze midair, despair washed over her and she stood blank for several seconds, unable to react. Having successfully possessed him, Venom gloated inwardly with a sinister laugh. He, I've finally found the perfect host. Snapping back to her senses, Gwen's eyes reddened, she clenched her fists and punched Jomo again and again. Are you stupid? Why didn't you react? Do you know how dangerous it is? Tears streamed down as she spoke. The punches were naturally light. Jomo, like a frozen machine, gave no response. He had seen venom flying toward him, of course he felt it. But the sensation didn't come from venom, it came from the clumsy watch. No sooner had venom finished its smug laugh than a cold, overbearing aura slammed into it. The instant the aura touched it, Venom realized something was wrong. Like a father spanking his son, the aura was too domineering, it had zero power to resist. It was about to be devoured. Gene replication complete. Venom. Gene optimization complete. Venom. Optional additional state. Venom. Seeing Jomo motionless, Gwen grabbed his shoulders, tears pouring down. Jomo, can you hear me? Don't let that thing take over your heart. Before she finished, she saw Jomo transform into Venom. With a tap of his finger, the venom mass was ejected from his fingertip and landed precisely beside the mouth of the fallen canister. The stake vanished in a flash. After completing the action, Jomo came back to his senses and said gravely, Gwen, actually, I haven't seen enough yet. Tears still clung to her cheeks. Glancing between Jomo and the now inert venom mass, Gwen blinked in bewilderment. Everything had happened too fast for her to process. It looked as though Jomo's body had copied venom and then expelled the original. Blinking again, Gwen wondered, how had he done it? She had nearly lost half her life to break free of venom. Why could Jomo expel it effortlessly and even complete a copy? Was the gap between them really that huge? Night fell. At the space agency launch pad, two furtive figures sneaked in. In her new suit, Gwen hugged the canister. Her goal was simple. Find an unmanned rocket about to launch, stuff venom inside, and send it far from Earth. Gwen carefully studied the rocket she needed. Meanwhile, Jomo fell into thought about Wanda and Dormammu. After leaving the clock tower that afternoon, he'd received a call from Natasha. Wanda, napping, had shown abnormalities. When Jomo arrived, it was far worse. Wanda's body exuded black mist that filled nearly the entire room. He recognized the black mist. Dormammu's aura. It was as if a trap had been laid. The moment Jomo arrived, the dense black mist surged toward him. Sending Natasha to fetch the doctor under the pretext of calling for help, Jomo transformed into evil explosive frog and swallowed it all. Hidden spells within the aura attacked from every direction, forcing evil explosive frog to move constantly. The absorption even put pressure on evil explosive frog. When Wanda woke, she knew nothing of what had happened. Jomo felt a toothache coming on. So everything Dormammu had done was still aimed at possessing him. Was he really that special? Looking at the night sky, then at Gwen beside him, Jomo decided, this old horse refused to turn back, the villain Dormammu had to be eliminated. He'd worked so hard to earn money and secure privacy for what? So that one day he could live a rich, reclusive, happy life with Gwen and Wanda. With Dormammu blocking the plan, no amount of money would matter if the demon wasn't destroyed. As he gazed at the night sky, Jomo's body suddenly shuddered. He sensed a figure flash within his mind. This time the unlock condition had been triggered. Jomo's breath caught. Crystal Warrior. Crystal Warrior, one of the most underrated alien heroes. Jomo knew his abilities, basically absorb energy and convert it into ultraviolet counterattacks. While moving and firing, he's surrounded by twinkling rainbow sparkles. In terms of absorption, Crystal Warrior can't match Electric Lizard form. But Electric Lizard form is practically the strongest fighter below the three phantasmal gods, a total monster. The writers themselves certified him a creature that can absorb multiverse energy. Being his low-tier version is nothing to be ashamed of. And don't forget, Crystal Warrior is underrated. Battle lust is surging. Anticipation flashed in Jomo's eyes as he glanced around. Who activated Crystal Warrior? A sweep of the area, nothing. Puzzled, a fireball tore through the night sky, lighting the darkness. It wasn't a meteor, it was a spaceship. Gwen frowned. More aliens. Bang! The craft slammed down ahead of them, the hatch burst open and Star-Lord scrambled out. His helmet scanned, locking onto Jomo and Gwen. Jet boots flared, he hopped like a flea to land before them. Does your planet have any defenses? He looked at Gwen. Any superheroes, maybe. Gwen eyed the uninvited guest warily, saying nothing. Taking silence for, no, Star-Lord slapped his forehead. Figures, none. We're toast. Gwen. I'm literally standing right here. As Star-Lord trudged back, Jomo stopped him. Who says there aren't? Star-Lord spun around, delighted. So you're the local superhero, pal. Gwen. Spider-Man is in front of you and you eliminate the right answer first try. Since you've seen through me, I won't hide it any longer. Jomo folded his arms. Correct. I'm Earth's guardian, Sorcerer Supreme Gu Yi. Gwen was speechless. Saw through, what? You weren't even disguised. Star-Lord beamed, grabbed Jomo's arm and towed him toward the ship. Earth's guardian, Sorcerer Supreme, the title alone sounded invincible. Listen, Mage, your planet, Earth, right? Rings a faint bell. Anyway, Earth is about to be hit by a terrifying alien invasion. We can't stop it alone, we need your help. He rattled on as they walked. Gwen hesitated, shook her head, and followed in silence. One dared to claim, the other dared to believe. Inside the ship, Gwen was startled by the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. A tree, a raccoon, a green woman, and a red bruiser. Yikes, the whole crew looked alien. Jomo, expecting it, let himself be dragged toward the cockpit. Look. Star-Lord pointed. Jomo sat. On-screen, a dozen warships were bearing down on Earth. The flagship alone was the size of a small moon. Ronan, Star-Lord muttered, eyes on the screen. Jomo nodded calmly. I know him. Star-Lord's eyes shone like light bulbs. This Earth Guardian really knew everything. Surely he had a plan. Rocket Raccoon spoke up. So you're the local vigilante type. Star-Lord turned cheerfully, only to find Rocket looking past him at someone else. Gwen, arms folded, nodded. Call me Spider-Man. I keep New York safe. Star-Lord blinked rapidly. Rocket sneered. Who wears that at night and claims to be normal? Star-Lord saw the point. Exactly. So she's not a good guy. Gwen. Gamora. Gamora patted Gwen's shoulder. You're right, he really is an idiot. Star-Lord stared, wounded. Gamora merely shrugged. Gwen sighed, glanced at Jomo. Same as him. Jomo whipped round. Gwen, explain yourself. She blushed and looked away. Sweet revenge. So, Rocket stepped up. Oh Guardian of Earth, how do we handle this? Jomo stared at the screen, still hunting for Crystal Warrior's unlock source. Seconds later, a streak of light shot toward the fleet. At first he thought it was an Earth rocket, then saw someone carrying it. Captain Marvel. Recognition jolted him. Crystal Warrior's icon flickered wildly in his mind. Made sense. Captain Marvel also absorbs and releases energy, fitting Crystal Warrior's theme. I'll just wipe them out. He stood calmly. Impressed, Star-Lord gave a big thumbs up. At the hatch, Gwen blocked his path, eyes full of worry. One man against an entire battle group, how could she not worry? He patted her shoulder, smiled, waited. She finally stepped aside with a pout. Outside, Jomo became fireman and rocketed skyward. Gamora was oddly moved. You two clearly love each other. Gwen snorted. We're not a couple, just friends caring, okay. Groot nodded. I am Groot. In space. Captain Marvel, rocket on shoulder, hovered before the armada. Inside the flagship, Ronan's cold smile spread. Decades ago you scared me off, not today. Killing intent crackled between them. Just as battle was about to erupt, a voice shouted, "Wait, I'm here too." Diamond Fire Man flew in, hand raised. If they didn't fight, how could he absorb Captain Marvel's energy to unlock Crystal Warrior? Leaving Rocket behind, Captain Marvel faced the fleet, clenched her fists, and slammed them together. In an instant, terrifying energy erupted from the point of impact, spreading so widely it completely blanketed the armada. The energy formed a wall, clearly meant to stop the fleet in its tracks. The blast wind struck Jomo's face. He marveled at Captain Marvel's power. No wonder this woman dared to single-handedly challenge Thanos. Glancing at the 4% experience Crystal Warrior had just gained, Jomo mentally gave a thumbs up. Inside his warship, Ronan sneered, "Decades ago you scared me off exactly like this. Now, hey." His tone hardened. "In the name of Commander of the Imperial Command Group, all ships, open fire." Gun barrels extended from the warships, blue light pulsing and intensifying. In the blink of an eye the light reached critical intensity, laser weapons poured out like a rainstorm. Behind the barrage, swarms of command group fighters streaked forward at high speed. This was simply an unequal cosmic war. Had any human armada been present, they'd have turned pale with terror. But this was Captain Marvel. She gave a contemptuous laugh, clenched her fists again and slammed them. Last time a warning, this time annihilation. Ripples of energy spread through the surrounding cosmos, the incoming lasers were scattered, and under the backlash command group fighters exploded like fireworks, one after another. The fleeting blaze of those detonations lit her face as she watched the expanding energy surge toward the fleet. Ronan ordered again, "Fire the main cannons." 7 flagship cannons erupted. 7 colossal azure beams, arrows intent on tearing the universe apart, pierced the energy wall effortlessly and shot straight at Captain Marvel. This time she didn't meet them head-on. Her whole body blazed, and in a flash she darted far aside, evading the salvo. Regaining her balance, she looked at the fleet, her expression darkening. This fleet was configured for planet-busting warfare. From the edge of the battlefield, Jomo felt Crystal Warrior's experience jump from 4% to 9% as her energy swept past. TCH, could he just lie here and win? Noticing the flames on his body had gone out for lack of oxygen, Jomo folded his arms and stayed put for now. Facing the flagship, Captain Marvel sensed greater danger. Your strength is far from enough to build a fleet this massive. Who's backing you? Ronan lifted his chin with a grin. Why would I tell you about Lord Thanos? Keep firing, I want to see this fooled woman die here. His words couldn't reach her ears. The fleet finished retargeting and another cannonade rushed toward her. She didn't dodge again, she streaked straight ahead like a loosed arrow. Compared with the main cannon beams, she was the sharper arrow, carving a path through the dense artillery rain. Her blazing body made the scene breathtakingly spectacular. Yet when she struck one of the main cannons, she was flung away outright. Flung backward, clutching her chest, she stabilized herself and stared at the flagship, shock evident in her eyes. So strong. These cannons were far beyond Ronan's level. Fixing her gaze on the flagship, she dared not move. Earth. A crashing spaceship drew the launch site staff. They crept closer but didn't dare approach. Ignoring them, everyone aboard, except Gwen, cheered while watching the screen. Star-Lord nodded confidently. Clearly Earth's guardian, the mighty Sorcerer Supreme, is biding her time. Destroyer agreed. Yes, hunting prey requires the right moment, but who is that woman? Rocket, arms folded, smirked. Doesn't matter who, she can't handle Ronan. Gwen wanted to speak but hesitated. These people had really been fooled by Jomo. While their mood soared, Gwen stared at the corner of the screen where Diamond God of War stood, her worry deepening. Elsewhere, Stark was stunned numb. Behind Captain Marvel he'd seen several barren asteroids pulverized by a few main cannon shots. Hell, if Earth took even one direct hit it would probably evaporate on the spot, right? Last time Earth's guardian didn't act, probably won't this time either. Then, should we go nuclear? Stark racked his brain for a solution. Besides nukes, nothing else came to mind. He had noticed Jomo, but right now Jomo simply couldn't perform. Without oxygen in space his diamond man lost the mobility of fire, he'd be a sitting duck. The best option would be turning into shapeshifter to infiltrate and sabotage from within, but obviously he couldn't get close enough. So, nukes were the only choice. Watching the worried Stark rub his temples, Pepper glanced at the shield on the table and asked, "Should we inform Steve?" Stark lowered his hand, paused, then stepped forward. "Never mention that name in front of me again." Boom boom boom. Another artillery rain descended. Diamond God of War morphed one arm into a man-height shield to protect himself. Captain Marvel crossed her arms, using energy to defend. In the earlier knockback she had landed beside Diamond God of War, so this barrage swept over him as well. "Who are you?" she asked while blocking the onslaught. "I'm Earth's Guardian, Sorcerer Supreme Gu Yi," Jomo replied through gritted teeth. Diamond God of War could survive in space but couldn't fly. Right now he could only take a beating. "A few days ago I found a lot of human tech adrift and signal dead in space, so I sent it all back," she explained, then peeked ahead. "Facing us is Ronan's gang. Their tech is way stronger than before. Any ideas on how to deal with them?" After speaking she muttered, "No idea why your human tech went haywire." Jomo grew agitated and declared, "Some fool on Earth must have messed with quantum tech and scrambled global signals." After that outburst he glanced at Captain Marvel beside him. When the cannonade slackened, he suddenly grabbed her arm and pulled himself closer. She looked at him in bewilderment. Dispelling the diamond shield, Jomo kept pressing against her. Scoot over, make a little room." As the barrage intensified she had to boost her energy shield. No time to bother with him. Still, several main cannon hits blasted her far backward. Acting as if nothing had happened, arms linked with hers and pressed close, Jomo felt the cozy warmth of someone huddling to a radiator in deep winter, and exhaled contentedly. Like plugging into a power bank, Crystal Warrior's experience steadily climbed as Captain Marvel kept releasing energy to maintain the shield. Content for only 2 seconds, Jomo thought of Fireman. TCH, can't fly, still useless. He looked at his palm and tried the fire ability again. But like a lighter out of fuel, the flame sparked and vanished instantly. He gave up, resigned. While he recharged in comfort, Ronan's voice came from the flagship, "Leave Earth and I'll spare your lives. If not." He paused deliberately and sneered, "I'll throw this woman into prison and torture her, then cut off this diamond man's head and hang it in my bedroom." Jomo's eyes bulged. "Why lock her up but cut off my head?" Ronan snorted coldly. "Because you look like you deserve a beating." Jomo. With that, Ronan looked toward Earth, naked greed flashing in his eyes. He had struck a deal with Thanos. He would help seize the Infinity Stones hidden on Earth. The fleet was only the down payment, the real prize was Earth itself. The thought of soon conquering Earth set Ronan's blood racing, and he regarded Diamond God of War with open contempt. So this so-called Earth's Guardian is actually this weak. HMPH. I really don't get what Thanos is afraid of. Muttering to himself, Ronan gave the kill order. The 2 pests had already been driven away from Earth, now it was time to wipe them out. At his command, every warship except the 7 flagships ceased fire. Silence lasted only an instant before a colossal laser beam tore through the void, blasting Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel blocked the strike with everything she had and didn't retreat, but as she prepared to counterattack she saw a second main cannon beam of equal power already incoming. The laser swallowed her, shoving both her and the energy-shielded figure behind her inexorably backward. Resisting with all her might, Captain Marvel burned with urgency and resentment. If she could just close in on those ships, she was confident she could tear them apart. But the barrage was too dense, she couldn't get through. Forcing a burst of super speed, she finally broke free of the beam's brutal push, only for another pre-locked main cannon to fire the instant she emerged. The flagship's system predicted her re-entry point almost like precognition. Again the instant she dodged, another laser lanced out. Clenching her teeth, sweat pouring down her forehead, Captain Marvel felt her strength beginning to fail. "Don't you have any move of your own?" she snarled at the Diamond God of War beside her. "Stay calm." Noting the progress bar in his mind, Jomo, like some worldly sage, answered serenely, "The time isn't right yet." Crystal Warrior's experience had reached 85%. Jomo figured a little longer would do it. What time? Time to go to hell. Suddenly Captain Marvel felt Ronan had a point. This guy really was asking for a beating. They'd been fighting half the day and he'd done nothing except cower beside her. Earth's guardian. Sorcerer Supreme. Ha! Yet Star-Lord still believed Jomo completely. That's right, he's still waiting for the right moment. Once the mighty Earth's guardian and Sorcerer Supreme strikes, everything will turn around. Sensing an inexplicable, premature victory euphoria fill the ship, Gwen finally couldn't help asking, "Do you actually have any way to fight back?" Star-Lord glanced at her, thought for a moment, and answered honestly, "We do, but it might as well be nothing. You can see for yourself. We're absolutely no match for Ronan." Behind her mask Gwen pinched the bridge of her nose and closed her eyes. True, sending this tiny craft against that armada was like asking a goldfish to fight a pod of killer whales. But apart from this, what else could they do to help Jomo? Unable to think of anything, Gwen grew anxious, then suddenly opened her eyes and stared at the screen, a ridiculous thought flashing through her mind. Could Earth actually be blown to bits by these aliens who came out of nowhere? On the feed, Captain Marvel's movements had clearly slowed. Since the two nuisances refused to leave, Ronan would simply have to kill them. Under the fleet's predictive targeting, every shot from the 7 main cannons felt like Death himself swinging his scythe, reeking of icy doom. In the silent cosmos the only sounds were the shriek of lasers and Captain Marvel's ragged, rapid breathing. Her shoulders heaved harder and harder, her face turned pale. Every being has a limit, she was almost at hers. Captain Marvel couldn't understand. Where had Ronan obtained such overwhelming tech? Ronan stretched out a hand, pointed at the screen where Diamond God of War stood beside Captain Marvel, and ordered, "Kill him first." The moment the command was issued, Jomo, eyes fixed on Crystal Warrior's nearly full progress bar, whipped his head around to see 2 flagships warp jump right behind him. Their black muzzles shimmered with blue light. Jomo yelped, "Ah, come on, why's it always me?" Boom. Boom. The twin laser cannons fired, the recoil shook the hulls. The goal was simple, obliterate the Diamond Man. Without a word Captain Marvel spun, arms flung wide. Bang. Bang. The energy wall pushed out by her palm blocked the 2 laser beams, and as the overwhelming force struck, Captain Marvel's brows twisted in pain. At the same time, the main fleet's twin cannons erupted, slamming into the energy wall Captain Marvel had raised with her other hand. At a glance, the 2 of them were already caught in a pincer between the beams. The 4 massive lasers kept pushing, Captain Marvel's body buckled and trembled. Her face deathly pale and her forehead drenched in sweat, Captain Marvel could barely speak. "I can't hold on much longer." "You, run. Avengers Tower." Stark stared coldly at the satellite feed and dialed the military. He saw that of the 7 capital ships, 4 had moved to finish off the pair, the remaining 3 were leading the armada straight for Earth. At a moment like this, only a nuke could be counted on. This was something Stark had never imagined even in his worst nightmares. Even Jomo had been powerless against them. Earth was about to be conquered, or annihilated, by aliens no one had ever heard of. Stark had never even heard of these aliens. While waiting for the call to connect, Stark kept his eyes fixed on the screen. Rather than hope for a miracle, he trusted technology. His mind was already calculating the optimal nuclear strike to inflict maximum damage on the fleet. When his gaze swept across Jomo, a selfish thought flashed through Stark's mind. If only Jomo would flee back to Earth now, then we'd have one more fighter for the battle ahead. Muttering that, Stark lowered his head and sighed. "Friday, call Steve." Finally, the 4 gigantic laser beams ceased firing. A pale smile blossomed on Captain Marvel's face. The moment her taut nerves relaxed, she lost control of her body and began plummeting toward the abyss of space. She couldn't hold on any longer. But the instant she started to fall, Diamond God of War caught her by the arm. Too weak even to struggle, Captain Marvel forced a smile, her voice faint. "I've done everything I can. Right now, the most important thing for you is to survive, get out of here." Grasping her arm, Jomo said nothing, he simply glanced at the Crystal Warrior icon in his mind, its progress bar now full and glowing. Captain Marvel saw that the moment Diamond God of War turned toward the flagship, his body began to change. His green skin shifted to dark purple, and under the dim light, glowing patterns appeared across his body. In addition, his forearms, cheeks, and the top of his head turned a distinct pink. By the time he finished turning, Diamond God of War's transformation was complete. Captain Marvel couldn't help but wonder, what kind of change was this? His gaze locking across the void onto Ronan in the flagship's bridge, Jomo spoke in a voice so calm it felt eerie. I'm going to kill all of you. The words carried outward. Inside the ship, the Guardians of the Galaxy cheered and raised their arms in excitement. The Great Earth's Guardian is finally making his move. Gwen froze in suspicion, she had never seen Jomo in this form before. And she sensed the murderous intent in his tone, something she'd never felt from him before, and her heart tightened. Avengers Tower, the call had gone through. Before requesting the launch of a nuclear strike, Stark fell silent, staring fixedly at the screen without a word. The declaration reached Ronan, the man of the hour. A snort escaped him, he couldn't hold back his laughter. The guy who'd been running and unable to fight back was saying he'd kill him. Ronan laughed heartily. So he gave the order, kill Jomo. The flagship's systems locked onto Jomo, the program finished, and all 4 main cannons fired at once. Just as the system predicted, Crystal Warrior showed no sign of movement. He simply hovered in place, staring coldly toward Ronan. The next second, Ronan watched Crystal Warrior push Captain Marvel away and take the 4 massive beams head-on. Ronan burst out laughing, unable to close his mouth. That's it. That's all you've got. The 4 titanic beams swallowed Crystal Warrior's body from every direction, not a trace of him could be seen. But as he watched, Ronan's wide grin suddenly froze. His heart skipped a beat. Every hair on his back shot up, goosebumps covered his skin. What the hell? How could this be? A warm current swept through her body, and Captain Marvel froze. She could feel Crystal Warrior channeling a trickle of energy through her captured hand, restoring her basic mobility. Before she could voice her surprise, Crystal Warrior shoved her away. Carried by cosmic inertia, Captain Marvel drifted rapidly into the distance. Sensing something, she widened her eyes in horror. Her mouth had just opened when 4 titanic beams swallowed Crystal Warrior whole. The blue flash of the beams overexposed the entire frame. Bathed in the blinding glare, Gwen felt dizzy, the world spinning, nearly collapsing. Stark, watching from the other side of New York, stood dumbfounded. The thought, why didn't he dodge? Echoed endlessly in his mind. A single ray could obliterate a small asteroid. Against 4 rays, that short-haired woman's energy shield hadn't lasted long at all. Jomo, knowing all this, had just unlocked a new form, so why hadn't he dodged? What would happen after taking that hit head-on? Stark was utterly bewildered, staring blankly. The military's frantic calls through the phone couldn't pull his consciousness back. Only Ronan watched with the triumphant smile of a victor. If even Captain Marvel avoids that strike, then the only thing greeting you is death. The combined radiance of the 4 rays outshone the sun across this sector of space. The beams kept firing, the light unabated. The intrusive glare bored into Gwen's eyes, her heart sinking, desperation spilled from her pupils. She could no longer hear anything, only a buzzing in her skull. Every nerve focused on her brain, her head felt heavy, her body light, swaying without realizing it. Jomo, looks like he's going to die. Aboard the flagship. The victor's gaze slid toward Earth, anticipating his prize. Ronan's grin grew wilder. Those 2 nuisances are gone. Next, Earth. What force will Earth send to resist me? He muttered, tightening his grip on the crescent blade. Next. Hey, I'll kill plenty more. The hammer responded, flaring a new crimson rather than its former violet. He should have been reduced to dust and scattered to the void. With that certainty, Ronan turned back, ready to order 2 ships to hunt Captain Marvel while the rest followed him to assault Earth. His eyes had just shifted when he saw. Amid the blinding blue, a distinct sphere of dark violet light now hovered at the center. Squinting suspiciously, Ronan wondered if his vision had failed or if some cosmic anomaly had appeared. 2 seconds later the violet flare intensified, outshining the blue as if to mock his guess. Ronan's expression froze, his body jolted. Within the violet sphere stood Crystal Warrior, arms folded calmly, staring straight at him. Magnified on screen, Ronan clearly saw Crystal Warrior's aura brighten as the 4 beams kept pouring in. His heart lurched. Ronan stepped forward in alarm. He's absorbing the energy. Impossible. A flagship's laser was pure destructive force, how could anyone absorb it? After a frantic instant he regained composure, barking a new order. The four beams ceased, the fleet began turning away from Earth. Without the glare, Gwen saw clearly. The violet cocoon vanished, and Crystal Warrior stood unharmed, arms still folded. No time for relief, Gwen's face paled. Run! Her shout hadn't died before every warship, including the four flagships, unleashed their cannons. Stark's mind turned to mush, he couldn't even form a coherent thought. Even he, a mere observer, could see the fleet had finished turning and locked on. Did Jomo somehow miss it? Small ship rays and flagship beams rained like a tempest. The instant they struck Crystal Warrior, the shockwave hurled Captain Marvel away. Now the screen showed nothing but searing blue that monopolized every pixel. Zooming out, all Stark could see, besides the scattered armada, was the artificial blue sun they had created. Even the tech-savvy Stark shuddered, doubting reality itself. Blue light had already pierced the atmosphere, flickering in the night sky outside his window. Are they here to annihilate the entire Milky Way galaxy? While Stark reeled at the devastation, Ronan exhaled in relief. No one could survive that barrage, even if he was Earth's guardian. Recalling that title, Ronan, playing it safe, kept the order unchanged, fire until every battery was drained. And once the batteries were empty, how would he attack Earth? Ronan looked at the red glow atop his hammer. Slay Earth's strongest guardian. With this treasure, he could still conquer Earth and claim the gem Thanos desires. Seconds crawled by, Stark was already earnestly discussing nukes with the military. Captain, weapons power is nearly depleted. Hearing his subordinate's report, Ronan broke into a greedy grin, he could hardly wait to become Earth's new ruler. Just as Ronan turned to gaze at Earth and fantasize about ruling it, his peripheral vision caught a dark purple glow ahead of the flagship. His energy exhausted, Crystal Warrior still stood there. But compared with moments ago, his once folded arms now hung loose and the light on his body blazed even brighter. Ronan stared, dumbstruck and motionless. Our assault could obliterate 100 Earths, how is he still alive? Captain, it looks like he absorbed every bit of our attack energy again, same as before. Bullshit. This Earth's guardian is stronger than we thought. Way stronger, Captain. Captain, we should consider leaving, we still have enough power for a jump. The crew reverted to the chaos of space pirates, shouting over one another through the comms, all demanding the same thing: run. Ronan's face turned livid, without a word he tightened his grip on his crescent blade. Inside the ship, a cheer of elation erupted. Star-Lord's face flushed with excitement as he clenched his fist. I knew Earth's guardian could do it. Did you see that? He's incredible. Oh, and by the way, I'm the one who found him. Staring at Crystal Warrior, Rocket shook his head in stunned disbelief. How'd he pull that off? Ronan's fleet could vaporize Earth 100 times over, how did he absorb all that destructive energy? Destroyer raised his twin blades and roared, whatever the reason, we won. Her emotions on a roller coaster, Gwen could scarcely believe Jomo had survived such an onslaught after switching to his new form. With Crystal Warrior's figure reflected in her eyes, Gwen also wondered, how did he do it? While Stark was deep in discussion with the military, a glimpse of the scene snapped his soul back, his body froze, lifeless. By his calculations, destroying this armada would require hundreds of nuclear warheads. Back when Loki's alien army first arrived, the military had needed only one to level New York. Now, without 100 nukes detonating in space, wiping out this massive fleet was impossible. Yet against that same fleet, one that could annihilate half the planets in the Milky Way galaxy, Jomo simply stood there, unharmed, and actually absorbed every last bit of their energy. Frozen in place, Stark began to seriously question reality. Out in space, Captain Marvel, on the scene, stood with mouth agape, unable to speak. If Earth was overjoyed, Captain Marvel's silence came from pure shock. The reason she'd chosen deterrence over destruction was that Ronan's new dreadnoughts could casually obliterate any planet that displeased them while en route. Any planet? Yes, any one of them. Decades later, the firepower of the new ships was a qualitative leap. That was why she'd struggled so hard and still nearly died. 4 capital ships had cornered her on the brink of death. Yet this Earth's guardian had withstood the entire armada unscathed. and had actually absorbed that apocalyptic attack. What? Eyeing Crystal Warrior again and again, Captain Marvel's astonishment peaked. This was no Earthling, what was he? An alien. In all her travels, she'd never encountered a species like this. In the blink of an eye, the fleet's channels exploded in argument. Space pirates are like Earth mercenaries. Greedy, cowardly, never taking risky or losing jobs. If you might lose your life, what's the point of money? Many, treating Crystal Warrior like a plague, snarled at Ronan to order a retreat. Only 2 or 3 seconds had passed since the attack ended. At that moment, Stark jolted back to his senses. He suddenly realized, if Jomo's new power could absorb energy, could it also release it? The energy of a man-made sun being let loose. Stark's eyes widened as his breath caught. Wouldn't that destroy Earth as well? As the thought struck, Stark saw Crystal Warrior slowly raise one hand on the screen. Give up. You won't escape. Jomo's calm voice carried through space. Some captains, too terrified to wait for Ronan's order, roared at their crews to jump to hyperspace. With that, Crystal Warrior's raised fingers slowly closed, a smile tugging at his lips. This next part is going to look awesome. He snapped his fingers. Instantly. In Asgard, Odin snapped his eyes open. He hadn't noticed the skirmish near Earth. What he sensed was that a planet under his protection had been slaughtered. The power stone kept on that world was gone. With a hurried wave of his hand, he summoned a spell. A magical projection appeared. Odin's breath stopped. In the vision stood Ronan's flagship itself. The Crystal Warrior snapped his fingers, and an almost inaudible sound became strikingly clear against the backdrop of the silent universe. Snap. As the sound fell, a hum followed. A terrifying burst of energy exploded directly from the Crystal Warrior's fingers. Yes, Stark hadn't seen wrong, it had exploded directly. A multicolored ripple spread as an aftershock, and everything in its path was annihilated. Looking at the screen, the ripple's speed of diffusion wasn't fast, it maintained a constant velocity. But to the personnel aboard the warships at the scene, it was a different story. The closest warship hadn't received the evacuation order and continued to hold its position. Seeing the increasingly close threat warned by the ship's system, the captain was plunged into a great, unknown terror, opening his mouth wide into the communication system. Captain Ronan. This is. The low growl stopped abruptly after just 1 second. Before the warship system could finish calculating, the ripple had already arrived. The small warship began to disintegrate the instant of contact. After the ripple swept past, everything was vaporized, leaving nothing behind. Instantly, panic erupted among the fleet. More and more warships ignored orders, and the anxious roars of the captains drowned out the communication system. Didn't you fool hear my order? Initiate space warp and get out of here. If you don't want to die here, forget about Ronan. Shit, shit, shit. What kind of monster did we provoke? A large number of warships began to turn, but before the maneuver was complete, the uniformly moving ripple, like merciless cavalry, had already arrived. Nothing was left, not even the sound of an explosion. This, conversely, made the space pirates even more frantic and crazy. They felt that in this situation, hearing an explosion might actually give them a sense of security. There were no screams, no explosions. After contact, they were just gone. What the hell is this bizarre thing? On Earth, Stark couldn't hear the sounds from inside the warships, only seeing one ship after another frantically turning, and one ship after another being mercilessly erased, as the multicolored ripple gradually filled the entire screen. As he watched, Stark actually perceived a unique aesthetic beauty, momentarily becoming lost in thought. But this feeling was fleeting. The next second, Stark watched in horror as the ripple made contact with several asteroids. Previously, the nearby asteroids were directly pierced and shattered after being hit by the main cannon. But now, after the multicolored ripple swept past, the asteroids further away didn't even leave behind dust. The constantly moving ripple continued, neither slowing nor accelerating, like a merciless giant hand, wiping away one existence after another from the screen. Gradually, the vast number of small warships could no longer be seen on the screen. A few flagships, relying on their massive size and cutting-edge technology, barely managed to leave behind a clump of scrap metal. But besides that, nothing else remained on the screen. Floating meteorites, nearby asteroids, the remnants of the previous planet, all gone. Completely empty. In that moment, the universe was as clean as an uncontaminated sea surface. However, soon the multicolored light brought by the ripple filled the void. And the ripple was still spreading. Several small warships that had just completed a space warp and left the area had just stabilized when the constant ripple arrived and casually erased them. Having accomplished all this, the ripple continued onward. Seeing this, Stark's eyes widened to the maximum. He was completely stunned. Who the hell is the villain here? If it keeps spreading like this, won't there be nothing left in the entire universe? He retracted his terrified gaze and focused it back on the Crystal Warrior. Stark couldn't understand. What the hell is this thing? Suddenly realizing something, Stark's mind froze. Wait, what about Earth? He quickly swiped the projection, searching for the right perspective. Just as Stark expected, the ripple was spreading toward Earth. Immediately, Stark's body trembled again, and the color instantly drained from his face. Are you going to erase Earth too? Are you here to protect Earth or destroy it? Fortunately, the moment the ripple touched Earth, several massive golden magic arrays lit up on Earth's surface, blocking the ripple. Seeing this, Stark's tense nerves finally relaxed, and he dared to breathe a sigh of relief. The Earth's guardian finally made a move. Hey! After that, Stark looked at the Crystal Warrior with a complex expression. Where did this guy get such freakish abilities? It felt like his one snap almost wiped out everything in the universe. On Earth, Star-Lord, inside the spaceship, was so excited he was practically jumping. Golden Magic Array. Guys, don't forget, besides being the Earth's guardian, he is also the Sorcerer Supreme. Star-Lord was so happy to have latched onto Jomo that his face was almost splitting from smiling. Rocket was also shocked. Able to absorb and release such terrifying energy, and wield powerful magic, is the Earth's guardian, really that strong? Gwen was too stunned to speak, and hearing the duo's comments, she felt both amused and exasperated. They still believe Jomo is the Earth's guardian and the Sorcerer Supreme. However, seeing the same golden magic array lighting up on Earth and the Moon, Gwen frowned curiously. If it's not Jomo, then whose magic is this? Could it be that Jomo knows magic too? In the universe, Captain Marvel used the energy given by the Crystal Warrior to fly desperately to his side, dodging the ripple attack. Witnessing all this, Captain Marvel was speechless, her feelings complex. She glanced at the distance occasionally, then at the Crystal Warrior beside her, opening and closing her mouth, still unable to utter a single word. Everything that happened was undoubtedly paradigm-shifting for Captain Marvel. She had fought Ronan's fleet for a long time and was almost beaten to death by them. But then, facing the same fleet, a fleet that had even used its full power until its energy was completely depleted and only then stopped. This person beside her, however, was completely unscathed and wiped out the entire enemy fleet with a single snap of his fingers. A powerful fleet that could swagger across the universe, capable of blasting apart any planet they didn't like with a single cannon shot. Versus being instantly annihilated by a single snap. It took Captain Marvel a long time to reconcile these two factors. Catching a glimpse of the Crystal Warrior beside her, Captain Marvel also wondered, what exactly is he? Captain Marvel could sense that the feeling this person gave her was similar to the feeling the Diamond Man had given her earlier. Could they be some kind of close relative or related in some way? But the disparity in combat power between the two states seemed quite large. Sanctum Sanctorum. Using magic energy to shield the Moon and Earth from the ripple, ensuring Earth suffered no damage, Ancient One remained composed. For someone of her level, Ronan's fleet was no different from children playing house. Although the Earth crisis seemed to be over, Ancient One still quietly watched the warship where Ronan was located. Wong, who was standing nearby, did not possess Ancient One's composure. He clenched his fist and celebrated to himself, saying, "The sorcerer protected Earth once again. It didn't suffer even the slightest damage." Stephen forced a smile onto his pale face, finding the remark inexplicably ironic. Taking a deep breath, he looked back at the Crystal Warrior in the magic projection, and a sense of powerlessness crept back into Stephen's heart. How could he not see it? Throughout the entire process, the Crystal Warrior hadn't used any combat technique. He just stood there quietly, snapped his fingers, and then Ronan's fleet was completely annihilated. Was there any technique or maneuver involved in that? It was precisely because there wasn't that Stephen felt so powerless. He even felt like crying from despair. Wasn't he supposed to be the chosen next sorcerer supreme? A super magic genius. If he, this super magic genius, had gone up there, he definitely wouldn't have lasted longer than that woman. Yet, in the same situation, Jomo switched to a new form and solved everything with a snap. Stephen really wanted to ask one thing. Jomo, are you seriously hacking? This new form of yours has no skill required, it's all about stats. Forcibly suppressing his emotions, Stephen sniffled, looked at Ancient One, and asked, Sorcerer, is it over now? Can we turn off the magic projection? I want to rest. His fragile spirit had suffered a devastating blow, and Stephen wanted to be alone. A faint smile appeared on Ancient One's face. Is it truly over? Stephen snapped back to reality, his eyes showing unease and vigilance, and he quickly turned his head to look at the magic projection again. Not over. Ancient One spoke calmly. Wong, if you are tired, you may rest. But Stephen, you may not. What happens next is a lesson you must learn. Stephen blinked blankly, completely failing to understand. Directing his gaze back to the magic projection, Stephen tried to find the answer. Captain Marvel thought the matter was over and, showing her independent nature, said, although I saved you once, and you saved me once, we are now even. But, I still want to say thank you. Captain Marvel bowed slightly in thanks. Just as she finished all this and prepared to turn and leave, Jomo's voice drifted over, there is still one last person who hasn't been killed. However, you can leave if you wish. Captain Marvel frowned and stopped. One last person. In this situation, could anyone still be alive? Suspiciously, Captain Marvel looked toward the location of the warship. The moment her gaze landed, the dim lights inside Ronan's warship flickered back on. The multicolored ripple had gradually faded. Against the backdrop of the dark universe, the red light shining from the warship's window was unusually conspicuous. Sensing the aura emanating from inside the warship, Captain Marvel sharply inhaled, and the hairs on the back of her neck instantly stood on end. This is the aura of the Power Stone. The Power Stone. It's in Ronan's hands. The Power Stone. Captain Marvel's expression changed, her lips subconsciously parted, and she fell into surprised contemplation. How could the Power Stone be in Ronan's hands? This ripple stirred in her heart, and a hint of dread, which hadn't been present before, appeared in Captain Marvel's eyes. Who gave the Power Stone to Ronan? Barely supporting his swaying body, Ronan wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and finally stood steady. He looked up at the long hammer in his hand, let out a sigh of relief, and felt an inexplicable gratitude towards Thanos. If he hadn't given me the stone, if I hadn't been protected by its power, I would have died. Ronan muttered to himself, wincing in pain, and reached out to cover his chest, from which intense pain constantly emanated. When his gaze shifted from the long hammer to the crystal warrior, the gratitude in his eyes instantly turned to savagery. Protected by the Power Stone, Ronan survived. However, when the crystal warrior's ripple attack came, Ronan didn't react immediately, and in that instant, he suffered injuries worse than death. The idea of occupying the earth was temporarily thrown to the back of his mind. Staring intently at the crystal warrior, Ronan almost ground his teeth to dust. At this moment, only one thought echoed in his mind. That is, kill this fooled fellow who ruined everything for him. He had finally obtained this massive fleet of warships, and all his future hopes were pinned on it. The crystal warrior destroyed the fleet, and he would lose everything, returning to the status of a dog. If he didn't kill the crystal warrior, Ronan's hatred would be unbearable. Kill you, get the other stones, this is my only choice. This is more important than my life. Ignoring his dying body, Ronan spread his arms and roared maniacally. The Power Stone's ability was activated, and the top of the long hammer glowed intensely red. Ignoring the pleas of the warships that had turned into scrap metal, the Power Stone's energy brutally entered the attack system, its power forcing open the muzzle, and as the Power Stone's energy accumulated, the muzzle flashed red. Across from him, the crystal warrior narrowed his eyes meaningfully upon seeing this. Jomo felt a slight disappointment in his heart. From the red light, he also deduced the presence of the Power Stone. But what he didn't expect was that facing a bug-level treasure like an Infinity Stone, the clumsy watch had no reaction at all. Jomo regretfully threw out a temptation in his heart. This is the Power Stone, you know, Divine Power Tyrannosaurus, aren't you tempted? The Divine Power Tyrannosaurus had no reaction. Jomo finally sighed, all right, the Hulk had no reaction, and the Power Stone also had no reaction. Who knows what can activate you? Captain Marvel recovered, looking at the crystal warrior beside her who seemed to be inexplicably sulking, and reminded him, somewhat absent-mindedly, do you know that he's holding the Power Stone? Recalling his thoughts and no longer thinking about the divine power Tyrannosaurus, the crystal warrior nodded. I know. Raising an eyebrow, Captain Marvel quickly glanced at Ronan and then quickly looked away, asking in confusion, then, you're not running. After saying this, Captain Marvel realized her remark was a bit foolish. Earth was right there, where could an Earth's guardian run off to? However, directly confronting Ronan was definitely not the way. Sanctum Sanctorum. The sound entered his ears, like a giant rock falling into a calm lake, stirring up huge waves in Stephen's heart. The Power Stone. Is it the Power Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones? The air seemed to solidify, making it hard to breathe. His wide eyes fixed on Ancient One's profile, Stephen's brain trembled with shock. He actually saw the Power Stone. And it was in the hands of an alien villain. Any person or object has a limit to its existing energy. But the Infinity Stones. Their power is, as their name suggests, limitless. Inexhaustible. And Ronan was holding the Power Stone, which has immense destructive power. Ronan was certainly a small fry, but with the Power Stone, he now represented the greatest crisis Earth had ever faced. No matter how Stephen thought about it, he couldn't remain calm. As usual, Stephen tried to find solace from the Ancient One. As long as Sorcerer Ancient One said, it's nothing, in her usual tone, Stephen, no matter how panicked, would quickly calm down. But now, looking at Ancient One's profile, besides her increasingly solemn brow, Stephen saw nothing else. When he saw the veins popping on Sorcerer Ancient One's solemn temple, Stephen suddenly froze, his mind went blank, and his face lost all expression. Sorcerer Ancient One seemed a little scared. Asgard. Taking quick strides, Odin walked out of the palace hall with the imposing gait of a dragon and a tiger. At the entrance, Thor, who had been summoned, was waiting. Odin's voice was so heavy that Thor found it unfamiliar. Thor, my son, I have told you countless times how to govern Asgard and ensure its people live happy and joyful lives. Saying this, Odin turned his head to look, and a slight smile finally broke through his solemn, iron-like face. You must remember, the most important thing about Asgard is not its land, but its people. From these words, Thor only heard 2 words, last words. His father was giving him his last words. Thor instantly panicked, subconsciously taking a step forward, and said urgently, Father, you said that Earth has a powerful guardian, she can handle all of this. No. Odin softly uttered a single word, then turned back, gazing into the distance, and whispered, no, she cannot appear. This is a conspiracy more terrifying than you can imagine. Thor's mind raced, not understanding the sentence. But soon, he thought of the crystal warrior, Jomo's transformed state, and his eyes lit up with joy, like a drowning man grasping at a straw. Father, Jomo is still here. His new ability is very powerful. His son's desperate plea reached his ears, and Odin was silent for 2 seconds, then looked at him with a laugh. Odin laughed very happily, his smile spreading the wrinkles around his eyes. Do you think that human's new ability can surpass the Power Stone? Odin looked at Thor as if he had heard a very funny joke. Thor was stumped, losing his momentum. No, it can't. No. Odin denied it decisively, once again turning his gaze forward, sighing, and putting away the smile on his face. His gentle voice was laced with an unfitting anxiety. No one can directly defeat the Power Stone. In the image, Ronan held his long hammer, and the Power Stone at its tip poured out light furiously. The twisted muzzle was shattered by the energy, and at a glance, the short, remaining section of the muzzle looked like a stripped-down version compared to before. But looking at the energy continuously accumulating in that muzzle, no one would associate, stripped down, with this scene. Because the energy source for this shot was the Power Stone. And it was a Power Stone that was continuously charging. Not to mention 100 planets, this one shot was enough to blast anything into dust. Empowered by the Power Stone, Ronan's savage roar echoed through the universe, You fooled thing, you ruined my plans. I'm going to blast you into smithereens. The crystal warrior clicked his tongue, finding it boring, and thought, why say so much nonsense? Just fire the cannon already, I'm in a hurry. Captain Marvel beside him seemed to have figured out the intention of this purple crystal man, and for a moment, she even doubted her life. He planned to directly confront the Power Stone. Ah! After a moment of thought, Captain Marvel couldn't help but ask in surprise. You know Ronan is holding the Power Stone, right? I know. The crystal warrior nodded, staring expectantly at the increasingly dazzling muzzle. As one of the underestimated alien heroes, Jomo wanted to see what stage he could develop the crystal warrior to. Then you don't know the Power Stone's abilities. Captain Marvel pressed, even more surprised. Of course I do. The crystal warrior was a little annoyed. Do you think I haven't watched Avengers 3 and 4? Unable to bear it, Captain Marvel raised an eyebrow and exclaimed in disbelief. Then you still plan to directly confront him? Doesn't this guy know that the Infinity Stones are on a completely different level of existence? The Power Stone and mutants are simply not on the same scale. How can he fight it? This is as absurd as a 7-year-old saying, let's decide who's superior and who lives or dies, and then challenging a 30-year-old professional boxer. Jomo was too lazy to reply to this. He glanced at Captain Marvel with a hint of disdain from the corner of his eye, thinking, your battlesuit isn't even that red, so why are you talking so much? Inside the Earth spaceship, Gwen's blood quickly ran cold after learning about the Power Stone from Star-Lord. It can give people inexhaustible power. In shock, looking at the crystal warrior, Gwen's head buzzed. How is this Jomo going to fight? The Power Stone represents the strongest force of the rules. Facing it, will the crystal warrior win? No matter how she thought about it, he wouldn't. Gwen was frantic, and at this moment, she couldn't care about anything else. She quickly reacted, took a deep breath, and spoke rapidly, in a panic. Listen. He's not the Earth's guardian or sorcerer supreme you're talking about. Star-Lord, immersed in the thought of his familiar planet being slaughtered, looked on, but Gwen didn't give him a chance to ask, her next sentence immediately following. Simply put, he's not as strong as you think. So now, facing this crappy Power Stone, do you have any other solutions? Saying this, Gwen's panicked gaze swept across everyone's faces, trying to find an answer. Her meaning was already clear. Jomo was no match for the Power Stone. Since these people knew about the Power Stone, they should also know how to deal with it. Her gaze swept over the last person, and from Gwen's frozen body, it was not difficult to tell that she had failed. Rocket was a little disbelieving and asked in a low voice, if we don't have a solution, what will happen? The accumulated emotions were instantly ignited by the answer, and Gwen broke down, her voice choked with tears. He will die. The information in this sentence was explosive. All the Guardians were stunned, completely unexpected that such a strong Jomo was not the Earth's guardian. Then, who was the true Earth's guardian? Suspiciously, Star-Lord looked back at the screen. The next second, as if on cue, two figures appeared on the screen. Besides Odin, Ancient One also arrived. After seeing them, Gwen cried tears of joy. Jomo could live. However, as she watched, Gwen noticed something was wrong. The main cannon had finished charging and was about to fire. But Odin and Ancient One were quietly suspended on both sides behind the warship, as if they had no intention of intervening. One on the left, one on the right, Odin and the Ancient One appeared on either side of the warship. After exchanging a long-distance glance and confirming that the Time Stone was not on the Ancient One, Odin relaxed. Then, together with the Ancient One, he turned his attention to the warship. Recognizing Odin, Captain Marvel felt a little more at ease. Yet with two big shots on the scene, the atmosphere gained an invisible pressure. Captain Marvel couldn't help worrying about her image, afraid of disturbing the two great beings. Because he noticed Odin and the Ancient One's sudden arrival, Ronan stopped the main cannon at the very last second, clenching his teeth in frustration, cold sweat breaking out on his back. Avengers Tower. Stark stared blankly at Odin on the screen. In his ear, the military reported that the fighter squadron carrying the nuke had already taken off. That face looks just like Thor. Must be Thor's father, then this one is the true Earth's guardian. Having identified the two, Stark's thoughts grew complicated. This was the first time he had encountered power on this level. But, his eyes flicked back and forth, confusion surfacing as he frowned. Why aren't they doing anything? Because of Thor, Stark understood Odin better than the Ancient One. Thor always said his dad was the king of the gods, the guardian of the 9 realms, and so on. Taking down this alien invader who held the Power Stone should be easy for Odin, right? In that case, why is he just watching and not acting? Spotting the crystal warrior on the screen, Stark's breathing froze, his eyes widening. I get it. They're going to sacrifice Jomo. Stark's pupils constricted violently. Is it because of the Power Stone? The answer was obvious. To minimize risk and avoid a head-on clash with the Power Stone, Odin and the Ancient One had silently agreed to subdue Ronan the instant he attacked. As for the price, they would simply ignore the blast from the main cannon. The information on the screen was earth-shattering. Never in his dreams had Stark imagined that these two legendary powerhouses would, to reduce risk to the lowest possible level, choose to disregard Jomo's life. Stark's mouth opened in shock, but he couldn't draw a breath. Their style seemed completely different from what he'd imagined. Yet after thinking it over, Stark closed his mouth and slowly exhaled a turbid breath, his heart conflicted. If it were him, for Earth's safety he would sacrifice himself without hesitation. From that angle, Stark could barely understand the two of them. What he found hard to accept was that the one being sacrificed was not himself but an innocent, Jomo. Stark's tangled emotions left him speechless. He only wanted this unbearable scene to end. In space, Ronan's furious roar rang out, not aimed at Odin or the Ancient One but at Jomo. Looks like you and I are going to die here together. The crystal warrior curled his lip in a silent retort. Relax, I'm not going to die. Ronan, unable to hear the crystal warrior's murmur, kept roaring, how about we switch it up? I'll let you go, and the two of us join forces against those two. That way we both live. And who knows, you might need the stone in my hand. Ronan added with a savage grin. The moment those words came out, Odin visibly reacted. His thinking matched Stark's guess. Use Jomo as bait, then the instant Ronan used the Power Stone, subdue him and seize the stone. He didn't dislike Jomo, at least not to the point of wanting him dead. But Ronan had no way to obtain the Power Stone on his own. The stone had definitely been given by some other entity. If that being could bestow the Power Stone, it could bestow other things. That was why Odin, though he could storm the warship from behind and quickly subdue Ronan, chose not to. He feared Ronan might have other hidden weapons. If Ronan escaped with the Power Stone, the crisis would spread across the entire universe. On one side, the safety of the whole universe, on the other, an innocent earthling named Jomo. If one had to be sacrificed, Odin would choose the latter without hesitation. But now Ronan's proposal had disrupted Odin's plan. One second they were fighting to the death, the next they wanted to team up. Under the threat of a huge conspiracy, pressure mounted in Odin's heart. In a voice only he could hear, he muttered, if this human named Jomo agrees to cover Ronan's escape, we'll be in trouble. As he finished, the corner of his eye twitching, Odin ground his teeth as he stared at Ronan, inexplicably wanting to curse. Who the hell could have guessed this scumbag would propose teaming up with Jomo? Weren't you going to kill Jomo? Keep killing him. He wiped out your entire fleet. What a loss. Kill him already. If the plan failed, Odin would have to take the risk and fight Ronan head-on while he held the Power Stone. When Crystal Warrior gave no response, Ronan kept roaring, his tone more anxious than before and laced with a strangely sincere honesty. This guy was actually begging his mortal enemy, Jomo, to team up with him. See for yourself. The two behind me don't care whether you live or die. These so-called great ones keep saying they'll protect the planet and their people at any cost. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. Know why? Because you are the cost they're talking about. You're the one who'll die, tricked, while they keep lying. Inside the warship Ronan's saliva flew with every shout. Instead of the meaningless death they've arranged for you, don't you want to fight for a future? Are you really willing to be a pawn that can be sacrificed anytime? He paused, then spoke like an old friend reunited. Join me. I love you, powerful monster. I'll hand you the Power Stone. Together we'll rob the other gems on Earth, deliver them to that person, and rule Earth, then plunder other planets. We'll live as happily as if in the Garden of Eden. Hearing this, the Ancient One's heart wavered. Rob the other gems on Earth. Apart from the Mind Stone, only the Time Stone remained. So they were already being targeted. Captain Marvel hissed at Ronan's offer. Frankly, the terms weren't that great. With the purple crystal man's power, he could seize any planet in the universe and live like an emperor. But everything is relative. Even she could see Odin and that sorcerer planned to sacrifice the crystal man beside her. The noble, mighty heroes demand your death, while the evil, brutal villain not only lets you live but promises a life of luxury. That really makes you think. Inside the ship. If Captain Marvel felt Ronan's terms were tempting, Gwen, if she could speak to Joe, would order him to accept on the spot. Is anything in this world more important than staying alive? Joe should survive first, then find a chance and run. What happened after that had nothing to do with him. That bald woman can use magic. The mage appearing here now must be the real sorcerer supreme, Earth's guardian. With great power comes great responsibility, something a powerhouse like her should shoulder. What does it have to do with Joe? Telling someone to do the impossible is no different from sending him to his death. Say yes, definitely say yes. Agree, then run the first chance you get. Gwen had never wished so desperately that Joe could hear her voice. Then, on her screen, Crystal Warrior curled his lips in disgust and flatly refused. I refuse. A buzz shot through Gwen, her body jerked and froze. After 2 stunned seconds, fat tears fell behind her mask as she sobbed, Idiot. You absolute idiot. What does any of this have to do with you, woo woo woo? The Guardians of the Galaxy flinched at the sudden scream. Then, hearing sobs and seeing Spider-Man's trembling shoulders, they knew, mask or no, she was crying. Gamora sighed inwardly. Woman's intuition told her these two were deeply in love. At Jomo's blunt refusal, Odin and the Ancient One showed no change, but inwardly they exhaled in relief while tensing for battle. Back on Earth, Stark pressed his hands over his eyes, unable to watch what came next. His upper face covered, the smile on his exposed mouth curved as he whispered, Jomo, I knew you were a good man. The smile vanished, his voice cracking, but I never expected to realize it right before you die. With that, Stark suddenly cursed himself. Godfool it. I should have given you more money when I had the chance. Hearing the rejection, Ronan, who'd made the offer, was so furious he nearly ground his teeth to dust. He still couldn't trick the guy. A desperado like him treats promises as nothing more than empty words. If I can't fool you into dying for me, then before I die you can full well accompany me to hell. The instant that furious roar sounded, Ronan finally launched his attack. Facing the onrushing strike, Crystal Warrior stood with hands in pockets, watching silently. Mid-flight he shot Odin and the Ancient One a glare and vowed, once I finish Ronan, you two rescue shirking, always trying to sacrifice me fools are next. At least I'll have company in death. The muzzle flashed crimson, Ronan's strike ignited, the blast blazed like a solar helium flash, so bright no one could keep their eyes open. A glance was enough, it looked like a sun itself hurling straight at me. Channeling her powers to flood her eyes with energy and keep her sight, Captain Marvel's heart sank. She twisted in panic toward Crystal Warrior. Why aren't you dodging? A sneer tugged at his lone eye. Crystal Warrior said something Captain Marvel found utterly baffling. In the end, it's still just a laser beam, isn't it? Captain Marvel couldn't make sense of it. Seeing he wasn't refusing help, she backflipped to put distance between them, yet the bewilderment and shock in her eyes never faded. Sure, it was a laser, but it came from the Power Stone. That's a whole different animal from a ship-mounted laser. Bathed in red light, Captain Marvel's reflection showed a figure swallowed by confusion. Her gaze turned vacant, she simply couldn't fathom it. Hadn't he just claimed he understood what the Power Stone could do? Could it be, he has no idea how terrifying the Power Stone really is? The instant Ronan struck, Odin and the Ancient One seized the opening and moved together. The Power Stone's glare had blinded this stretch of space, but they didn't need eyes. Both thrust a hand toward the warship. Twin torrents of sorcery burst from their palms, racing for the gem embedded in Ronan's hammer. Their speed outpaced the Power Stone's own assault by far. Ronan wasn't the target, the spells passed through the wreck like it wasn't there, zeroing in on the Power Stone. Sensing this from a warship deep in the void, Ebony Ma began chanting. Runes of teleportation flared across the Power Stone's surface. Atop the central throne, Thanos rested his hands calmly on the armrests, watching in silence. Below, opposite him, the assassin star let out a cold laugh. Lose Master's Power Stone and you'll learn the price, Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw said nothing. In that instant the teleportation runes had already wrapped around the gem. On the battlefield, feeling another sorceress presence, Odin sensed conspiracy again. The magic was weak, yet by hiding until now and laying the spell in advance, the caster had clearly prepared for Ronan's defeat. Who was he? No time to ponder. Odin bent and shoved his arm forward, pouring out more power. As if reading his mind, the Ancient One shifted from trying to seize the stone to stopping the rival spell, aiding Odin. Fencing with both titans across the void, cold sweat beaded on Ebony Maw's brow. Without his preset incantation he would have had no chance, even now he could only gamble on victory. The three-way tug of war twisted space violently around the Power Stone. Then, boom! A colossal red beam swallowed the warship whole. All three spells were blasted to nothing in an instant. The backlash surged into their bodies, jolting them. Odin and the Ancient One cut off their power at once, their eyes narrowing somewhere into grim slits, gooseflesh racing down their backs. Far away, Ebony Maw spat a mouthful of stale blood, his eyes bulging in utter terror. Realizing something had gone wrong, the assassin star stepped forward. What happened? Ebony Maw's mouth opened, his throat worked, but fear stole his voice. A moment later he managed a trembling, horrified whisper. How could this happen? Ronan and the warship had been erased, only the Power Stone hovered where they had been. Forgetting the gem for now, Odin and the Ancient One whirled toward the one responsible, Crystal Warrior. They saw him standing unharmed, hands on hips, and blinked in blank disbelief, forgetting to breathe. Odin had once mocked Thor, claiming that shock that blanks the mind is a human frailty no heavenly palace warrior should suffer. Yet now, staring at Crystal Warrior from afar, Odin found his own mind wiped blank, unable to think. The new data crashing into his millennium-old brain was shattering. Odin's lips trembled as he whispered, he actually sent the Power Stone's attack right back where it came from. He spoke as if to himself, as if in doubt. Long after the words faded, neither Odin nor the Ancient One could speak again. Not far from Crystal Warrior, Captain Marvel was practically jumping out of her skin. She had clearly seen the moment the huge beam struck the Diamond Man. No shattering, no annihilation, nothing happened to him. The only change, upon touching his body, the titanic beam was reflected straight back. Her mouth gaped wide enough to fit a loaf of bread, her heart pounded like a drum, her scalp tingling with sheer awe. This was one of the Infinity Stones, the Power Stone. After charging for so long, it had just unleashed a devastating strike. Hitting this Diamond Man without causing him any damage was already horrifying enough. Reflecting the attack back perfectly. That was something no one had ever heard of. Swallowing a silent, difficult gulp, Captain Marvel stiffly turned her head toward the Power Stone, a strange thought flashing through her mind. This thing couldn't be fake, could it? The moment she said it, she remembered Crystal Warrior's earlier comment, "Isn't that just a laser?" and jerked her head toward him. To her delight, she felt she'd figured out this Diamond Man's power. Besides absorbing energy, he could reflect laser beams. The instant the realization struck, her joy plummeted like a stone, because the whole thing was even more absurd. Reflecting laser beams was believable, but so casually bouncing back a charged up, planet-busting blast from the Power Stone. That was downright ludicrous. A gem capable of shattering universal limits and releasing infinite energy, and he hadn't even moved, just sent the attack right back. Staring at Crystal Warrior, Captain Marvel found herself doubting life itself. Inside the ship, the deathly hush was swept away. After 2 seconds of silence, Star-Lord spun around, arms spread, cheeks flushed crimson with excitement, as if he'd been the victor. "What did I tell you?" he called, taunting Spider-Man. "Once Earth's Guardian attacks, everything will be fine. Ha! Still trying to fool me. With power like that, what else could he be but the real Earth's Guardian?" He thumped his chest in relief, proud that he'd never again doubt his new powerhouse buddy. Star-Lord's clowning instantly livened up the ship. Rocket folded his arms. "Obviously, this Earth lady lied to us. I get it, you wanted to mislead us, make us leave and lose the friendship of the mighty Earth's Guardian. You're jealous, right?" He smirked and waggled his brows. Gwen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What nonsense. Jomo really isn't Earth's guardian. Watching Crystal Warrior on the screen, Gwen was as stunned as anyone. She might be the person who understood Jomo best. No, scratch that, she definitely was. She'd thought Jomo was doomed when she learned about the Power Stone. Seeing Odin and the Ancient One and guessing their plan, she'd cried non-stop. But who could have guessed Jomo's new ability would be this awesome? Gwen folded her arms and gave a smug hum. HMPH, so-called Infinity Stones aren't all that strong. They can't compare to him at all. Behind her, Gamora's expression turned complicated. It wasn't that the Infinity Stone was weak, far from it. Hadn't Odin himself shown up because of it? It was just that Gwen's boyfriend was so strong the Power Stone looked feeble by comparison. Basking in pride, Gwen swept her gaze across everyone. As the person who knew Jomo best, she could bet he'd try to sell these new friends for cash someday. Avengers Tower. After Friday's reminder, Stark lowered his hand. He now stared blankly, mumbling while replaying events in his head. So a fleet powerful enough to destroy any planet shows up, crushes that mysterious woman, and plans to conquer Earth. Humanity's only counter is the nuke, 100 of them to wipe out the fleet. Then Jomo snaps his fingers and annihilates the entire armada. Next, the alien whips out the Power Stone. Its terror forces King Odin and Earth's guardian to appear, yet even they dare not move against its blast. And finally, when the stone fires its fully charged killing ray, Jomo stands unharmed and reflects the attack, scaring Odin and Earth's guardian stiff. He hissed in disbelief. Finishing the recap, Stark's brain reeled. This was insane. Jomo had only just unlocked this power, how could it be that overpowered from the start? It made no sense whatsoever. Everyone thought so, even Odin and the Ancient One. They could sum up the situation in one word: ridiculous. They could block a Power Stone blast if they went all out, but to reflect it perfectly. Unheard of. Long life and vast experience let them push Jomo from their minds for now. They had something more important to do: retrieve the Power Stone. Just as they came to their senses and prepared to act, Crystal Warrior flew in and snatched the gem. The next instant, two figures blocked his path. Seeing Odin and the Ancient One's stern faces, Jomo understood. There was still a score to settle. After hesitating for 2 seconds, Odin spoke. If I'm not mistaken, it never belonged to you. Crystal Warrior glanced at the Power Stone in his hand and admitted it without hesitation. Yeah, it never belonged to me. After saying that, he closed his fist and said nothing more. The meaning was obvious: it hadn't been mine, but now it is. A familiar feeling made Odin's teeth itch. Was this guy planning to sell the Power Stone for cash? Ancient One spoke, voicing Odin's thoughts. What do you want it for? Hiding the hand that held the Power Stone behind his back, Crystal Warrior shook his head. No use at all. Then why take it? Suppressing her exasperation, Ancient One stretched out her hand. Then why not let me keep it in safekeeping? It could concern the safety of the entire universe. With me it would be safer. Blinking his single eye innocently, Crystal Warrior shook his head again in refusal. Odin and Ancient One. For some reason Odin felt outright robbed. He drew a deep breath, trying to keep his tone friendly. The Power Stone should be somewhere safer. Do you mean you want to guard it? Another possibility existed. As Odin said, after realizing the stone's power, Jomo wanted to protect it and keep it from falling into evil hands. If he had heard those words before, Thor would have worried. After all, his father had spoken what seemed like a final farewell. But now, the crisis had passed. What could still threaten the life of the All-Father Odin? Absolutely nothing. The same was true for Earth and the Sanctum Sanctorum. At first, hearing Jomo say he would kill every disciple of magic, Stephen had been terrified. Now, hearing it again, he felt no fear. For the same reason, the sorceress Ancient One had lived far, far too long for anyone to doubt she would keep living. With the Time Stone on top of that, Stephen felt the Ancient One could choose to live as long as she wished. Looking at the Crystal Warrior on the screen, Stephen couldn't help laughing. I thought you were smart, but now you threaten the Ancient One with her lifespan. Guess I was wrong. Even Stark, a plain human, found the threat laughable. Never mind Star-Lord, whose half-alien blood lets him outlive ordinary people. He didn't know the Ancient One well, but the All-Father Odin. The King of Gods had lived for millennia just in recorded legend. And Jomo claimed he would wait for Odin to die before slaughtering Asgard. Stark figured Jomo was only venting. Humans simply can't outlive these beings. Still, Stark understood, who told you two to stand by and do nothing earlier. Once Jomo vents his anger, this should all be over, Stark muttered, exhaling in relief and stretching lazily. But why do I feel I've forgotten something? Everyone else assumed Jomo was joking, except Odin and Ancient One themselves. Because they really were about to die. Their faces were far less composed than moments ago, a closer look even showed panic in their eyes. Staring at Jomo, both shared the same thought. How did this man know their secret? Only they themselves were aware of it. Their minds raced, dismissing every possibility. They were certain, neither the Ancient One's disciples, her chosen successor, nor Odin's own son Thor knew. So how did Jomo know? The crystal warrior brought his hidden hand forward and clenched it. The power stone glowed faintly red through his fingers. Jomo's soft laugh rang out. You won't take the power stone. I'll keep it until I no longer want it. If you plan to kill me, I suggest you do it now. Though it might upset your life's timetable. And that was true. Uneasier still, Odin and Ancient One suddenly felt transparent before Jomo, with nothing left hidden. Something's wrong. Odin sensed it. He was clearly stronger, so he should be the one reading Jomo, not the reverse. Ancient One inhaled, exhaled, and asked seriously, tell us, what exactly do you want? The crystal warrior extended his other hand, palm open. Money. Jomo added. Lots of money. The world fell silent. Then laughter exploded at every monitoring station. Gwen and Stark slapped their foreheads, chuckling, only you would ask two titans for cash. Thor and Steven laughed hardest. Extorting Odin or the Ancient One sounded even crazier than killing them after they died. But the next instant, none of them could laugh. Odin tapped the eternal spear. Countless Asgardian gold coins teleported in, hovering around the crystal warrior. Ancient One twisted her hand. Priceless antiques drifted out of her magical space one by one. At the sight, Thor and Steven widened their eyes in disbelief, their bodies trembling. What's happening? Using magnetism, the crystal warrior kept the treasures orbiting him. Odin and Ancient One, settling for second best, decided to let the power stone go for now and guard the remaining infinity stones. Seeing them about to leave, the crystal warrior spoke again. Wait. These are my spoils, but one thing is missing. They looked at him, puzzled. He lifted his chin. Bow and apologized to me. Odin and Ancient One exchanged a glance. They merely nodded slightly, but even that nod made Thor and Steven explode. Everyone watching was stunned. The two legendary titans had actually apologized to Jomo. What? Having done so, they left as intended. Stark slapped his forehead, suddenly remembering what he'd forgotten. And as if on cue, just as the crystal warrior stowed the treasures and turned back toward Earth, a nuclear missile shot straight at him. Abort that launch. Stark roared at the military. Facing the nuke-tipped missile, the crystal warrior simply tilted his head and let it streak past. Boom. A colossal blast thundered behind him, dyeing the void blood red. Real men never look back at explosions. He flew on toward Earth. Then, abruptly, Jomo stopped and whipped his head around in shock. Holy. Energon King Kong. Holy crap. Origin. Staring at that colossal fireball, Jomo felt the combat experience bar for Energon King Kong in his mind hit 0.8%, and an irrepressible grin bloomed across his face. So unlocking Energon King Kong really is tied to nukes. Jomo was stunned. This was the first alien hero who didn't need a person but an object to unlock. Mind racing, Crystal Warrior turned and kept flying toward Earth. When he pierced the atmosphere and spotted the distant contrails of returning fighters, he didn't attack. Waking humanity's deadliest god of death, the nuke, demanded caution. Hitting those jets here might unlock the so-called Energon War God, but it would definitely make an enemy of the entire US government. Being hunted by a whole nation is no joke. All those so-called patriotic superheroes alone would annoy Jomo to death. It wasn't cowardice or fear of losing, so long as Earth's hidden big shots didn't team up, Jomo against the full American war machine wasn't guaranteed to lose. It was simply, when there's a better way, why not take it? Like sneaking in, having every nuke tossed at him, then vanishing without a trace. Energon King Kong unlocked and his quiet life intact. 2 birds, 1 stone. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, why not? Right now Jomo was already mapping out the plan. Suddenly remembering something, Crystal Warrior looked up and gnashed his teeth. I'm not called Purple Diamond Guy, my name is Crystal Warrior. Still dazed watching Crystal Warrior descend, everyone snapped back when the voice rang out. In Asgard, Thor wrenched his thoughts back, only for the scene to replay in his mind. He remained slack-jawed, unable to accept that his own father had bowed and apologized to a human. The All-Father Odin, bowing to a human. The more Thor thought, the hotter the turmoil in his chest, he still couldn't take it. This was his father, how could he lower his head to Jomo? But then he recalled Crystal Warrior's sub-father level power, boosted by the Power Stone, truly a nightmare. That thought comforted him, he thumped his chest and exhaled. Father is thinking of the bigger picture, his vision is something earthlings can't fathom. A smug grin resurfaced as he preened at his father's wisdom. Arms folded, Thor crowed, sub-father is still only sub-father. If father really went all out, do you think it'd end like this? At the Sanctum Sanctorum, Stephen went through the same mental loop, first paralyzed by shock, then slowly reassured once he remembered Sorcerer Ancient One's might. Curling pinky and ring finger, he twisted the other 3 in midair. The Eye of Agamotto, housing the Time Stone, appeared. Corner of his mouth lifting, Stephen hummed. Honestly, with Ancient One's Time Stone, he probably never saw it coming that he'd be frozen in place, huh? Then both men thought of Crystal Warrior and, in perfect sync, their mouths twitched. Still, Jomo's new power's a bit too broken, isn't it? Stephen even worried Crystal Warrior might absorb the Time Stone's energy. If so, that would royally suck. But he dismissed the idea. Ancient One wasn't dumb enough to charge up like Ronan did, giving Jomo a window to react. Neither the big frog from before nor Crystal Warrior could pull that off. Unless, Jomo has some other energy-absorbing ability. The moment the thought formed, Stephen vetoed it. Crystal Warrior was already insane, something even crazier. Deep in space, a blood-lipped ebony maw dropped to his knees before the throne and blurted in dread. Forgive me, Master, I failed you, I didn't bring back the Power Stone. The rest of the Black Order knelt in unison, ready for Thanos' judgment. After 2 seconds of silence Thanos lifted a hand, his low voice eerily calm. Odin and Ancient One appeared, along with that odd Earth human. The failure is not yours. Relief flooded Ebony Maw, he exhaled in gratitude. Then Thanos added, Earth now holds 3 stones. When the time comes, you know what to do. Feeling the chill gaze from above, every member of the Black Order shivered and chorused, we will bring the stones to you, Master. Ebony Maw's voice rang the hardest, he lifted his head, teeth clenched, eyes blazing with resolve. Satisfied, Thanos merely nodded, then turned to the image of Crystal Warrior, silently committing the figure to memory. Back on Earth, Crystal Warrior zigzagged and vanished. A mini quantum jammer spat out by evil explosive frog erased every feed tracking him. With that, every observer stopped watching. Done, Jomo reappeared around the ship in human form. Alright, guys, relax, these are my alien friends. At the launch pad the men surrounding the ship, some still on the line with the police, turned at the voice to see an easy-going Asian youth strolling over with open arms, every face blank with confusion. Who are you? I don't remember hiring you. Alien friends. Wait, so they really are aliens. Just as some employees flushed with excitement, thinking they'd stumbled onto a blockbuster story, a crimson figure dropped from the sky and hovered above the crowd. The helmet opened, and Stark grinned. Looks like one of our company experiments spooked you folks. Hearing Stark's apologetic tone, the same people drooped in disappointment. So it wasn't an alien craft, just another Stark Industries test. Face value counts everywhere. With Stark on the scene, the tension melted, many simply walked off, bored. Those who stayed were mostly fans, so Stark waved cheerfully, while inwardly rolling his eyes at Jomo. Aliens. Could he really blurt that out? What if it caused a panic? Jomo was sizing up Stark's new armor. Sell that thing and it'd fetch at least 1 searcher. Just then the hatch opened and an overexcited Star-Lord bounded out. He rushed to Jomo, threw his hands up and bowed, then froze as he noticed the employee's stares. Instinct told him this was not the moment to speak. One by one the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy stepped down, quickly stealing every curious gaze. Seizing the chance, Star-Lord sidled closer, reddened with excitement, and whispered, "Mr. Earth's Guardian, you just said we're friends, right?" Throwing an arm around Star-Lord's shoulders, Jomo stared at the ship, eyes shining. Sure, he answered absently. As Gamora walked off the craft, the employees' excitement turned to bewilderment. They looked up at Stark. Catching their gaze, he laughed. "Cosplay, you know how it is." Vaguely recalling the term, they nodded half understanding. After Gamora came Rocket Raccoon, walking upright and radiating swagger. The employees were stunned. Facing their stares, Stark, startled, hastily offered, circus act." Already skeptical, the crowd next saw Groot. This time Stark ran out of explanations, muttered, "Genetically modified produce," and quickly searched for whoever was in charge. The scene sparked an idea in Jomo. Perfect scapegoats, these aliens. He waved warmly. "Hey, Groot. Long time no see." Stark's heart lurched, he nearly passed out. "I'm busting my butt covering for them and you just blow it. And you've never even met him before. Long time no see, my foot." Good-natured Groot didn't care. Seeing a greeting, he waved back amiably. "I am Groot." The employees froze. A talking tree. Where the hell are we, still eating GMO food? Luckily the manager finally arrived and, at Stark's signal, dispersed the crowd and led the visitors away. Watching their backs, Stark exhaled in relief. Thank heavens some company launches happened here. Without those contacts this would have been a nightmare. To his new old friends, Jomo followed ancient Eastern hospitality, treat them warmly, play the perfect host, and send them all straight to Stark's Avengers Tower. What else? Jomo himself was couch surfing at someone else's place. Star-Lord understood. Boarding the private jet he leaned to Jomo and whispered, "I know big shots have to keep secrets." One hand in his pocket, Jomo patted Star-Lord's shoulder with the other, while fingers inside the pocket blindly typed, "Spaceship, bargain sale, lady owner, 99% new." Suddenly Jomo yelped and spun to Spider-Man beside him. Gwen, unrelenting, pinched the soft flesh of his waist and twisted. Through gritted teeth she hissed, "Next time you see someone dangerous, will you run?" Not satisfied, she added, "Pighead." Jomo sniffed, looked her up and down, and resolved, this shrew can only be a junior wife later. Even Stark couldn't hold back a laugh. This couple's bickering was pure love. Naturally Gwen wouldn't stay at Avengers Tower. Once they reached the city she leapt out and vanished into the night. To carry out his plan Jomo moved into Avengers Tower, scrolling through his phone as he checked in. As expected, posts about aliens in New York flooded the net. Though Stark Industries rushed to deny them, the US is a breeding ground for conspiracies, and rumors of alien pilots landing in New York spread like wildfire. Scapegoat secured, Jomo pocketed the phone. Time to execute his own scheme. Watching the wide-eyed Star-Lord gawking around, Jomo tearfully deleted the spaceship's for sale description from the second-hand site. Star-Lord, you sweet fool, don't blame Big Bro, I'm only doing this to unlock Energon King Kong. That very night Jomo set his plan to unlock Energon King Kong in motion. The first step to unlocking Energon King Kong is to pick a target. Back in his room with the door shut, Jomo pulled out his phone, then paused and looked up at the ceiling. "Friday, I know you're watching me." Friday's voice sounded. "Sir, you can shut me down." The corner of his mouth curled. Jomo chuckled. "No, you won't remember me." With a thought, he morphed into Shapeshifter. The creature's finger bored into the phone, forcibly turning it black and green. While leaning on the handset, he slipped through the web into the U.S. Department of Defense network. At the same time, via Wi-Fi, he seized full control of Friday. In the blink of an eye, literally 2 blinks, he had what he needed, wiped every trace of himself from Friday, and reverted from Shapeshifter. Seconds later, Friday rebooted. "Friday, I know you're watching me." Head lowered, fiddling with the phone as he walked to the bed, Jomo repeated the line, only now his tone was casual, absent-minded. Friday, having forgotten she'd already said it, echoed, "Sir, you can shut me down." Then shut down. Propped against the headboard at nearly 90 degrees, Jomo pulled the blanket over himself. Very well, sir. The blue light in the ceiling fixture vanished. Friday fell silent. Jomo's fingers still danced across the phone. Nukes were no joke. He had to be careful. After weighing options, the desert base in New Mexico still felt best, remote, almost uninhabited. If anything went wrong, innocents wouldn't be caught in the blast. He wasn't a saint, but given a choice, better no casualties. Definitely can't use my own face. Fingers pausing, he scanned the plan for holes. Right, I'll need a facial mask, easy for shapeshifter. Oh, right. Recalling movie scenes, he smacked his forehead. He'd nearly forgotten the key part. Getting around the base needs an access badge. Again, no problem, encode his data and fabricate a matching card. He set the format and began typing in his details. Just then, click, the door burst open. Jomo looked up, ready to scold the intruder, and found Natasha, her face frantic. Wanda's fading fast. What? His heart sinking, Jomo snapped, what happened? Natasha hesitated, unable to explain, and simply stepped aside. It's complicated, come see. Worry drove him after her. Wanda had been fine that morning, how could she crash so suddenly? Dormammu. No, when the darkness poured out at noon there'd been no side effects. Following Natasha into the mansion's private ward, he saw Wanda on the bed, lips cracked, face drained of color, exactly as Natasha said. Several doctors stood by, heads bowed in shame, powerless. Spotting Jomo, Wanda forced a faint smile. His voice dropped. Tell me, what happened? The tone made the doctors feel he might kill them. One still answered, Sir, you know she gives off black mist. That's the backlash. He glanced at Wanda and sighed, the mist has sapped all her life force. Jomo's eyes narrowed, Dormammu again. Yet he himself had been possessed. Dormammu had tried many times to break free through him. Was it because he often shifted into wild demon vine and gained healing? Or did Dormammu simply not care if Wanda died? He pinched his brow, no answer came. Suppressing rage at Dormammu, he asked, can she be saved? The doctors stared, then lowered their heads in silence. They wanted to say the cliched line, sorry, we did all we could, but. This wasn't about effort, they simply had no clue. They didn't even know what the black mist was, let alone how to treat it. Instruments only told them the girl was dying. Jomo waved them out. All right, leave us. What do we do? Natasha's gaze swung from Wanda back to Jomo, worry undisguised. Lowering his hand, Jomo looked at Wanda. Wanda gazed back with tear-brimmed eyes, on the verge of crying. After a moment's thought, Jomo sat down, took her small hand, and whispered, give me 2 days. In 2 days I promise you'll be fine. Fighting back tears, Wanda nodded and gave a soft, She'd thought she wasn't afraid of death, but with the god of death inside her and life slipping away, the girl still reddened. For someone her age, it was simply too cruel. Gently brushing the stray bangs from Wanda's forehead, Jomo asked with a smile, did you try to break that black aura on your own? At the question Wanda looked like a child caught misbehaving, she pressed her lips and softly murmured, Why? Wanda lowered her head, her voice dropping. Because I wanted to help you. Jomo froze. The outcome matched his guess. Dormammu dropped by now and then, though thankfully never twice in one day. At the same time he recalled being trapped with Wanda in that dark space. Back then Mordo had clearly said Dormammu's goal was to possess Jomo. So it seemed Wanda, realizing the dark aura inside her was ultimately aimed at Jomo, had used her magic to seek out Dormammu and tried to wipe him out. Jomo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Being a superhero isn't like this, he thought. Dormammu, something you can handle right now. All right, it'll be fine. He patted her hand gently, comforting her. Wanda sniffed and softly murmured, again. He couldn't wait any longer. Jomo stood and headed for his room. How are you going to save her? Following him out of the ward, Natasha called after his retreating figure. No answer came, Natasha only felt his silhouette turn colder. Right now Jomo's fury blazed. What to do? Kill Dormammu, of course. The instant Energon King Kong unlocked, Dormammu would be the first to die, torn limb from limb, made to taste ultimate agony. Never had his desire to grow stronger burned so fiercely. After the mark vanished he'd taken things as they came, unlock when met, otherwise leave it. Now he saw that wouldn't do. When danger struck, big shots like Odin and the Ancient One sat back. Guardians of world peace cared nothing for a nobody's life. Without strength he'd already have died twice. Now the disgusting Dormammu targeted those around him. Without growing stronger there was no way out. Without delay, back in his room he began forging a military base ID, name, age, and the rest rolled off his tongue. He could invent hundreds without effort. But when he reached one line he froze. Emergency contact. Below that field ran small print. Someone who can take responsibility for your life should anything happen to you. His parents came to mind, but they were gone, and even if alive, not in the Marvel universe. Who could he list? He stared at the blank a long while. Late at night Jomo slipped out of Avengers Tower. Deep in an empty wood flash Star carried over equipment. Shapeshifter assembled it, and a human face mask printed out, followed by the military base ID card. With everything done and the machines returned, he fixed on New Mexico and vanished into the night. Tony, you had Friday call me, what's up? Steve's voice came through Stark's phone. Stark said, nothing, and hung up. The order to engage Ronan's fleet had gone to Friday. Now the crisis was past. Stark naturally flipped in guilty denial. Unable to sleep, Stark carried a bottle and 2 glasses to Jomo's door. No answer after several knocks. Pushing it open he found the room empty. Where is he? Stark glanced outside. Friday replied, unknown, and Stark chuckled, a random thought surfacing. Don't tell me the kid's off fighting crime with Spider-Man. With no answer he stopped wondering and returned to his own room. Oh, right, Friday, if New York City, no, if anywhere in the world faces a major threat, let me know. I'm a superhero too. He took a long swig, steps already unsteady with drink. Friday answered, understood. Once Stark was inside it deployed satellites to search for Jomo, and, unsurprisingly, found nothing. By then the perfectly disguised Jomo had become someone else entirely, swaggering straight toward the military base gate. Thanks for watching.